What if the fierce mentorship of Anko Mitarashi continued to shape Team 7's growth? How will the evolving dynamics and new challenges push them to their limits? Let's dive back into this thrilling alternate storyline. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you missed parts 1 and 2 of What If Team 7 Had a Second Sensei, I highly recommend you check them out first. Links are in the description. In this third part, we continue our journey with Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura as they navigate their training under both Kakashi and Anko. With unexpected trials ahead, how will their teamwork evolve? And what new obstacles will they face together? This fantastic story is written by juwby. Don't forget to support the author and check out the original work. There's a link to it in the description below. Before we jump into part 3, I just want to say a huge thank you for all the support you've shown. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and I'd love your help to hit that goal. If you're enjoying this content, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means everything to me. Alright, let's jump back into What If Team 7 Had a Second Sensei? Here we go with part 3. Kakashi shot a torrent of water towards Sakura. Sakura coated her hands in chakra and held them in front of the jutsu. For a brief moment, the water split apart when it hit her hands, losing its pressure and going around her. However, Sakura's control faltered, and the water blasted her, sending her sprawling back. As she stood up, her clothing was soaked, and her hair had come undone. She blew her matted hair out of her face and got up, frustrated at her lack of progress. Ever since returning from their last mission, she had been trying to recreate what she did with Jirobo's earth technique. They were shocked when she told Kakashi and Anko how she had disrupted his earth technique. When she came up with the idea, she thought it would be like manipulating any other piece of earth, but she had apparently performed a rare and powerful technique called chakra disruption. The technique was based on using finely controlled chakra to alter jutsu. The earth spikes technique requires the chakra to be molded at a focused point. When Sakura altered Jirobo's technique, she spread the chakra away from the focal point of the jutsu, causing it to dissipate. After discovering that Sakura had used the technique, Kakashi took over her training. Using his Sharingan, he could see how concentrated the chakra was in her hands. They decided to practice using water jutsus, as water is the safest element. Despite this, Sakura made very little progress with chakra disruption. According to her research, Anko said that the technique had never been mastered, and she had not heard of any ninja using it the way Sakura did in her life. Let's give it another shot. I was so close, Sakura declared. Kakashi shook his head, his concern for Sakura's well-being evident. We've been at it for 2 hours, and while I appreciate your determination, my eye drains too much of my chakra for me to keep going, he explained. Sakura nodded in resignation, showing disappointment on her face. So what was wrong with my last attempt? Like most of them, once you coat your hands, the chakra of my technique dissipates on contact. After a few seconds, the chakra in your hands loses focus, and your technique weakens. It's so frustrating. If I use too much chakra, my control isn't good enough, and when I use too little, it does not work at all, Sakura said, the stress getting to her. A part of her frustration came from watching Naruto and Sasuke steadily progress in their exploits while she had been stuck on this with no progress for weeks. Kakashi, seeing Sakura's struggle, tried to reassure her. You're trying to learn a technique no one has ever mastered. The fact that you can even do it is a miracle in itself. Being mad at yourself won't get you anywhere. Just keep on doing what you're doing. I'm sure you'll get it soon. Sakura felt her spirits lift upon hearing her sensei's words. She exhaled a breath, calming herself down. You're right, sensei. I just want to get this technique down, and you will come on. Let's head back. Kakashi and Sakura returned to the rest of their team. Naruto and Sasuke were in the middle of some training in combination jutsus. When Anko noticed their approach, she whistled, getting the attention of Naruto and Sasuke. Okay, that's it for today, Anko informed. What? But we've only been training for a few hours, protested Naruto. I know, but we also have been doing a lot of extra training. You guys need rest, explained Anko. Naruto looked at Sasuke from the corner of his eye. Sasuke noticed this and gave an almost imperceptible nod. And no training after we leave. The point of rest time is resting, not running yourself into the ground, said Anko as she read the boy's plan. Fine. As the team disbanded for the day, Kakashi and Anko walked beside each other. So, Did Sakura make any progress today? Asked Anko. No, she was frustrated, but I managed to console her. If she doesn't make progress soon, I'm afraid she will hurt herself from overexertion or chakra exhaustion, said Kakashi. I wish I could do more to help her, but there are zero books on technique disruption, just speculative journals at best. The lack of resources for her training is a significant hurdle, said Anko. Well, have you made any progress with getting help from a Hyuga to help her find out what she's doing wrong with her chakra? The Sharingan can see chakra, but it can't see its flow, asked Kakashi. Anko shook her head. Nope. Some branch members were willing to help, but the main branch elders disallowed it. They said that helping train Sakura in her technique would possibly give away some of their secret techniques. Sounds like their usual paranoid dogma. Typical for them, I guess. By the way, have you tried asking Kurinai's student for help? She's a Hyuga, isn't she? Questioned Kakashi. Anko stopped as a realization came over her. Wait, I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner. She might be able to help. Anko began to speed off toward the dango shop. Thanks again, Kakashi. I'll tell you how it goes, she yelled back as she ran out of earshot. As Anko entered the dango shop, alarm bells went off when she saw Kurinai sitting at a table alone, her head down, holding her cup tightly in her palms. Anko waved at the servers and took a seat across from Kurinai. So what's wrong with you? Kurinai looked up with a defeated look on her face. The Chunin exams are coming up, and I don't know if I want my team to participate. Do you not think they're ready? No, Kiba and Shino have been very receptive to my teachings. They are very easy to teach and motivated to perfect their clan techniques. Each week, they have improved. Kiba's a little resistant to teaching that doesn't involve him hitting something, and Shino's a little hard to communicate with. Despite that, I believe they're both ready for the exams. Kurinai said with confidence. So that means you think Hinata isn't ready. Kurinai took a sip of her tea. Hinata is one of the sweetest people I have ever met. If I were to have a kid, I would want them to be like her. I'm sensing a but here. At this point, if she doesn't improve within the next year, I would probably recommend to the Hokage that she stop pursuing a ninja career. Anko was shocked. Kurinai was not dramatic, so her expression of Hinata's current situation was genuine. Why do you say that? Are her skills that bad? Anko inquired. No, quite the opposite, actually. On paper she is very talented. Her gentle fist form is well practiced, and her fluidity in her movements would make her a tough opponent in taijutsu. Her chakra control is great. She is smart, fast, and has a lot of potentials to grow. Kurinai gave a deep sigh. Hinata's real problem is that she's incapable of violence. She holds back whenever she faces another person. Her strikes are precise and fast when it's just her and a training post, but it's a different story in any spar or fight. I've tried everything to get her to break her habit. Has she made any progress? Asked Anko. She did after the first few months, but on one of our missions, we were escorting a caravan. Some bandits attacked, and she was in charge of protecting the civilians. One of the bandits managed to sneak through and tried to take one of the traitors captive. Hinata struck him down with a gentle fist strike to his chest, and she ended up killing him. After that, I couldn't even get her to strike her teammates. Have you tried to get her a therapist? I did, but her dad was resistant to it. It was something about not trusting the Yamanaka and not taking clan secrets. Anko rolled her eyes. You did tell him that she can go through therapy without her mind being infiltrated. I think he just used it as an excuse not to let her go to therapy. The Hyuga are the only clan that still operates like they're still in the Warring Clans era, Kurinai said, frustration in her voice. Have you talked to the Hokage about it? Yeah, but he doesn't have much power to do anything if Hinata was a regular member of the clan. But she's the daughter of the clan head and second in line to take over the clan, explained Kurinai. Second in line? Isn't she the oldest? Oh yeah. I guess that news isn't exactly public. What do you mean? Hinata lost her status as the heir of the Hyuga to her younger sister. When did that happen, and why haven't I heard about it? Questioned Anko. It was 3 years ago. Her father doubted whether she could be an heir, so he had Hinata and her sister Hanabi spar for the title. Hanabi won. Hinata was disinherited from the Hyuga clan, and I became her official charge. Anko became visibly annoyed. How in the hell have I not heard about this? You're in charge of Hinata. Are you like her adopted mom or something? Kurinai shook her head. She still lives at home and is cared for. I handled her academy registration and any paperwork or details for her ninja career. Hayashi wanted her to become a ninja if she couldn't be an heir. Sorry, you must have misunderstood my question. Why the hell didn't you tell me? You haven't said a word about her to me for years. Kurenai took a sip of her tea. Well, mainly because it all happened while I was still in Anbu. We barely talked once a month then, and I didn't want to bring you down by telling you her story. Wait, so she doesn't know it's you who looked after her? Asked Anko. I wouldn't say I looked after her. I was just allowed to be visible next to her in the village. I would sometimes give her advice and help her out with schoolwork, but most of the time, we talked when she felt in the mood to. After I left Anbu and became a jonin, I hoped I could help her to succeed as a ninja, but at this point, I'm running out of ideas. Kurenai took a long look into her cup, deep in thought. Well, lucky for you. I actually wanted to talk to you about Hinata today. First things first, does Hinata have any friends? Kurenai shook her head. She doesn't hang out with anyone outside of Team 8. Well, I have something that might fix both our problems. One of my students needs a Byakugan to train with her technique, and I know a way that she can help Hinata as well, said Anko. Sakura walked toward training ground 35. It was Naruto's training day, and Anko told her she would train with Team 8 today, specifically with Hinata. Sakura had no particular strong feelings about any of the people in Team 8. She viewed Kiba as a slightly less annoying Naruto, and never talked with Shino or Hinata. As she entered the training ground, she was greeted by 5 figures meditating on the ground. Kiba sat on the far left. He had messy brown hair, sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, pronounced canine teeth, and nails that he could change into claws. He also bore the distinctive red fang markings of the Inuzuka clan on his cheeks. Kiba's attire consisted of dark grayish pants reaching to his calves, a gray, hooded fur-lined coat, a blue forehead protector, and blue sandals. Atop his head perched his canine companion, Akumaru, a small puppy with white and some brown fur on his ears. In the middle was Shino, wearing the same style as the rest of his clan. He had dark, round sunglasses and a sea green jacket with a high, upturned collar. Shino had fair skin and was the tallest member of his graduating class. He also had dark, bushy, brown hair. On the right was Hinata, a slender girl with a fair complexion. As a Hyuga, she has featureless white eyes. Her dark blue hair was cut just above her forehead, similar to a bowl cut, with chin-length strands framing her face. She wore a cream-colored hooded jacket with a fire symbol on the upper sleeves and fur around the cuffs and hem. Additionally, she wore navy blue pants and kept her forehead protector loosely around her neck. In front of them, Sakura showed what she assumed to be Kurenai. As Sakura approached, Kiba began fidgeting. He then sniffed the air, opened his eyes, and turned to see Sakura. Hey Sakura, what are you doing here? Kiba exclaimed. Akumaru also gave an inquisitive bark. I believe Kurenai-sensei told us of her coming arrival when we first arrived, informed Shino. Oh, I guess I missed that. Kurenai shushed her team, opened her eyes, and smiled at Sakura. Come on and join us. We are just doing our mediation. She gestured to the ground in front of her. Sakura walked forward, took a seat, and tried to copy Kurenai's pose. Kurenai, without opening her eyes, said, You don't have to mimic me. Just get to a position where you feel the most comfortable and close your eyes. Try to visualize your chakra system, and try to follow a strand of chakra throughout it. Sakura closed her eyes and began to imagine her chakra pathways. After around a half an hour, Kurenai opened her eyes and said, That's enough for now. You did well, Sakura, for your first time. Sakura stretched, feeling refreshed. Wow, I feel like really good. Mediation is a really effective tool for ninjas. Chakra manipulation is just as much a mental thing as a physical one, Kurenai explained. Yeah, meditation is pretty cool, I guess. I feel like I get a lot more out of my chakra after I do it. I also find it quite helpful. I find my Kikeichu are harmonized after a session of mediation, said Shino. Hinata hid behind Kurenai, nervous about a new person entering a space in which she found herself comfortable. Kurenai sighed. Well, Sakura is here to get assistance from Hinata, so the two of them will be working together today. Hinata began to panic internally and hid in her hoodie. Shino and Kiba, you two will be doing taijutsu and jinjutsu drills with me. Oh man, do we have to do the jinjutsu drills? Grumbled Kiba. Kurenai smiled. Yes, when you manage to dismiss all of them effectively. Sensei, I'm sorry to say, but such a feat seems impossible for us. Why? Because you are one of the best genjutsu users in the village and are ruthless in your applications, stated Shino. Well, you won't know unless we try. Kurenai then directed the boys to follow he. She then turned to Sakura and Hinata before she left and said, "If you two need anything, just yell at me, and I'll be right over." "Okay, thank you, Sensei," said Sakura. Hinata and Sakura were then left alone. They stood awkwardly for several minutes. Sakura was getting secondhand anxiety as an aura of general panic and unease radiated from Hinata. "So Hinata yelped as she jumped at her name. She looked Sakura in the eye only to look back down again. "Yes," Hinata said in almost a whisper. "I need your help with something I've been working on," Sakura said, trying to sound as friendly as possible. "What do you need?" Hinata asked, her tone of voice raising ever so slightly. "I need your eyes. My control ends up faltering every time I use my technique, and I think it has something with my chakra flowing incorrectly. If you can use your Baigoken to see what I'm doing wrong, it will be a big help." "Oh, okay." Hinata's voice was meeker than usual. Of course, Sakura wanted her to use her eyes. It was the only thing of value she had to offer. Sakura watched as Hinata shrunk in on herself, wondering what she should do. Anko encouraged her to befriend Hinata, but she had no idea where to start, as every single word seemed to break the girl down. Sakura then remembered Ino approaching her all those years ago. Becoming inspired, Sakura asked, "Hey Hinata, do you want to talk?" Hinata broke out of her trance of self-loathing and said, "Talk about what?" "Anything. Like, what do you like to do?" "You mean like hobbies?" "Yeah, I'll go first. I like reading and trivia. Lately, I've been making jewelry with my mom on the weekends." "Really?" "She runs a jewelry shop, so sometimes I help her with custom orders." "We made these together," Sakura said as she showed off her silver and emerald earrings. "Wow, those are really pretty," Hinata said as she looked at Sakura for more than a few seconds for the first time today. "Thank you. So what do you like to do, Hinata?" "Oh well, I guess I like flower pressing the most. When I was younger, my mom gave me a kit, and since then, I've done it just about every day." Hinata pressed her fingers together. "Other than that, I guess I like to draw from time to time, and recently, Shino has gotten me into watching bugs." "Watching bug?" Sakura asked, surprised to see Hinata interested in the activity. "Yeah, at first, I wasn't into it, but now I use my Baigoken to watch them from very far away. I still sometimes get scared though." Sakura began to giggle lightly. "Did I say something funny?" Hinata asked, confused. "No, it's just the image of you screaming randomly while watching bugs, which is funny." Hinata smiled. "I guess it is rather silly." Over the next half hour, Sakura and Hinata fell into casual banter. Sakura told Hinata of her and her team's exploits, and Hinata chimed in to ask more specific questions about Naruto. "Wow, you're so strong, Sakura. I wish I could do half the things you can do." Hinata began to look down in another one of her spells of self-loathing. Sakura, seeing her state, asked, "Hinata, do you want to be friends?" "Friends? Do you want to be friends with me?" "Yeah," Sakura said with a kind smile. "Why?" Hinata asked like she was trying to test whether this offer wasn't a trick or trap. "Well, outside of Ino, Naruto, and Sasuke, I don't have many friends, and you are really sweet, Hinata. I wish I had talked to you during the academy." Hinata paused, overcoming her shock at this newest development. "Okay, I'll be happy to have you as a friend, Sakura." "Great. So, do you want to come with Ino and me to the market this weekend? A bunch of foreign traders are going to be there, and we're going to see if we can find something interesting." Hinata began to get overwhelmed thinking about such a prospect. "I don't know. That sounds like there will be a lot of people." "Don't worry about that. I'm sure no one will even pay attention to you," Sakura said, trying to dissuade her concerns. Hinata shrunk in on herself. "Yeah, you're right. Who would want to pay attention to someone like me?" No. I mean that there are so many people that the focus won't be on you." After a few minutes of trying to reassure Hinata, she reluctantly agreed to come with her and Ino. After Sakura asked, "So, are you ready to help me?" "Yes. What do you need me to do?" said Hinata, eager to help her new friend. "Well, I'm trying to use a technique that needs very fine chakra control. I can gather the chakra for the technique, but it always dissipates before I can fully use it," Sakura explained. Hinata activated her Baigoken. "Go ahead and channel your chakra. I'll see if I notice anything." Sakura began channeling the chakra into her hand and expelled a slight amount continuously while circling the chakra in her hand. Hinata started at Sakura intently with her Byakugan. Sakura felt her control falter, and her technique dropped. Hinata squinted and said, "I see the problem. You're channeling chakra all throughout your body and not just to that spot. You're having to crinkle it through your entire system just to hold up your technique." "So how do I fix that?" asked Sakura. "Try to visualize a path for your chakra to follow. When I struggle with control, I often look at my pathways to find out what I'm doing wrong." Sakura nodded, closed her eyes, and began to visualize her chakra system. Choosing a path, she began to channel chakra through the path to her hands and performed her technique. After a few minutes, Sakura opened her eyes. She didn't feel nearly as much strain in holding her technique. Hinata nodded in approval. "Your flow of chakra is a lot more controlled now." "Thanks, Hinata. You're awesome," Sakura said as she ran over and embraced her. Hinata froze up slightly at the contact and said, "I didn't much. I just looked at your chakra." "No, I would have been stuck trying to do that forever without you." "Seriously, thank you." Hinata smiled. "You're welcome." Sakura went through a few more attempts before Kurenai arrived back to them and dismissed training for the day. Sakura walked back home with Hinata while they engaged in conversation. The following day, Sakura had to thank Hinata again as she managed to split the entirety of the Kakashi's water technique in half. Hiruzen, Danzo, Koharu, and Hamura were sitting down and discussing the envoy from the land of hot water. The woman's name was Rai Ito. She was a former ninja from the land of hot water. For the past several hours, they have been discussing the Chunin exams. Near the end of the discussion, they had just about reached an agreement and were working out the minor details. The terms were the leaf would assist in the protection and security of the Chunin exams and would provide any resources needed for the safety of the land of hot water. The land of hot water would then, in turn, work with the exam proctors to set up the trials and advertise the event. What you have laid out on the table for us is exciting. The potential boon to our economy would be extraordinary. Still, how do you plan to get other villages to attend the event? Questioned Rai. Danzo spoke. It is simple. We plan to offer each village a 10% cut of the profits. The Leaf has had the best economy among the ninja villages over the last few years. Mist, IWA, and Suna would be fools not to take an opportunity to participate. The only town that could refuse would be Cloud. Danzo's voice was confident, instilling a sense of reassurance in the room. "Oh, does that not take a cut into our profits for hosting the exams?" "No. The profits we plan to split will all come through the money generated by the events. We have had a few discussions with some of our exam participants, and we wish for each event to be publicized, not just the final round. The money you earn from tourists who participate in your economy will remain yours, and you will get 20% of the exam earnings." Rai was deep in thought and on the verge of making an agreement. Koharu could see they almost had her and went for the final blow. "You must think, if these exams are a success, future exams could be held in your land yearly. This could also be a long-term investment for you." This seemed to satisfy Rai as she gave a polite smile. "This offer would be too good for us to pass up. I think the daimyo will agree to these conditions, but he will probably want to hash out some more of the details as talks progress." Rai then stood. "Thank you for your time. I shall return within a few weeks. The daimyo will likely accompany me, and you can work out more details regarding the exams. He will be particularly interested in the financial aspects of the agreement, so be prepared to discuss that in detail." Hiruzen gave a light smile. "That sounds wonderful. Tell the daimyo we look forward to his visit." Rai bowed and made her leave the small meeting room. After she left, Hamaru spoke his mind. "I hope you are all sure about going in this direction. I'm especially surprised that you would agree with this, Danzo. Don't you think such publicity for the village could cause trouble?" "It was a surprise to me as well. You all know how much they hate the lack of survey and ninja work nowadays and despise the idea of such a commercialized ninja event. But the opportunities presented are too good to pass up." Hiruzen, knowing Danzo for so long, knew he wasn't talking about the same opportunities everyone else saw. "What opportunities do you see, old friend?" Team 7. "I have kept a close eye on their progress, and they are truly one of a kind. If they were to dominate on a large stage, we could strike fear in the ninja world." Danzo explained. Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe. "I should have figured you would take that angle, but I can't say I disagree with you. That seems to be happening more often as of late," Danzo commented. "I know, that worries me. For that to happen, then something terrible must be on the horizon," Hiruzen said, superstitious. In an underground facility in the land of rice fields, Kimimaro and Tayuya waited bowed on one knee behind Orochimaru, who was in the middle of some research. They had made their report of what happened during their mission and the death of the rest of their team. Both Kimimaro and Tayuya remained quiet. Kimimaro remained quiet out of respect, already resigning himself to his master's punishment, and Tayuya out of fear that the next of the two to speak would be killed. Finally, Akramato turned away from his work and spoke. "It is regrettable what happened to the other three, but we shall continue to move forward with our plans. Sadly, with the Leaf knowing of Kabuto's presence, they will likely become more cautious. I apologize, Master. We will accept any punishment for our failure," said Kimimaro. Tayuya wanted to go over and strangle Kimimaro to death, but kept her mouth shut out of fear. "No need for any punishment. Their deaths don't ruin much for me. You two are the team's most important members in terms of usefulness, and speaking of that, Tayuya, be prepared. We will be doing a lot more trials in the coming months." Teiwei gulped and spoke a soft, "Yes, Master." Orochimaru then turned to Kimimaro. "But since you asked, I will lay down punishment for you. I still need a team of elite soldiers, and you will be a part of it, but you will not lead it. Your role will be to recruit and control Yugo. I know you are the only one who can tame his violent outbursts." "Yes, sir. I would be honored." Kimimaro then began to cough violently, expelling some blood. This made Orochimaru's eyebrows raised. "Since when have you had that cough?" "Since my fight with Itachi, I have had coughing fits. I assure you it won't affect my performance," assured Kimimaro. Go get it checked out after this," said Orochimaru, slightly worried that Kimimaro might have lasting repercussions from his regeneration. "If I may ask, who will lead us going forward?" asked Kimimaro. Orochimaru smirked. "You know her. She's been a trusted associate of mine for a long time. Gurren, you may come out, please." A woman emerged from behind Tayuya and Kimimaro. She had fair skin, dark eyes, and light blue hair pulled back in a spiky ponytail, with long strands framing her face. She wore red lipstick and an outfit consisting of a green dress with a long left sleeve and a short right one, a red turtleneck with a white fluffy collar, and brown gloves. Under the dress, she wore a one-piece red suit. For shoes, she wore calf-length brown sandal boots. She examined both Tayuya and Kimimaro. "So this is my team?" Tayuya cursed her luck. It had to be Gurren. Why did Orochimaru have so many terrifying people on the payroll? "Yes, you will have one more member to collect, but as of now, you will lead these two as my elite squad." "Thank you, Master Orochimaru. I appreciate you giving me such a responsibility," said Gurren. "I believe you are more than capable. I wish to keep your existence hidden as one of my potential vessels. But now that I'm so close to completing Kenpiki, once the operation is executed, I can move to the final stages of my research." Orochimaru walked toward a large tube, its interior filled with an ominous, murky green liquid. With deliberate precision, he pressed his palm against the cool surface. "Once I complete you, no human will be able to stand against me." Inside the Hokage Tower, Jonin stood before the Hokage and his advisors as they registered their teams for the upcoming Chunin exams. They went from the oldest teams to the youngest. The vast majority of the senseis with older teams registered their team. As the process continued, it came down to the final 4 teams. "Will Team 3 participate in the upcoming exams?" questioned the aide. Guy, with no theatrics, put his thumb up and said proudly, "I fully believe that my team is ready for these upcoming exams." Asuma knew he was next and stepped forward and said, "Team 10 has shown significant progress and is ready for the Chunin exams." Before Kurnei stepped forward, she mouthed a light thank you to Anko and Kakashi before she stepped up. "I hereby register Team 8 for the upcoming exams." Kakashi and Anko stepped forward. Anko gave a slight nod to Kakashi, indicating that he should speak. "Anko and I firmly believe that Team 7 is ready for these exams." Hiruzen had a slight smile on his lips, and he nodded. "Okay, if that is all, then we are all dismissed for today. If anything changes, you can come to register your teams up to a week before the exams, and you may drop out at any time before we head out to the land of hot water." Wait. The room turned to see Irika sitting at a desk in the corner, documenting the participants. He had been holding his tongue, but the thoughts of his freshly graduated students not just participating in the Chunin exams just a year out, but in a different nation altogether, if any of them got hurt. If he didn't speak up, he couldn't live with himself. "I am concerned about the recently formed teams participating in these exams. It's only been a year since they graduated from the academy. I can understand maybe one team going, but everyone from the graduating class feels like we are rushing them along. Anko looked at Irika with her arms crossed. Irika, I can tell you care about the kids, but you know that a year of ninja training can change a lot. Most of these kids have changed in ways you do not know. I taught them almost daily for 5 years. I know these kids, Irika argued. How often have you talked to them in the past year? Questioned Anko. Irika clammed up at that as he felt guilt rise within him. He had only had passing encounters with some of his students. The number of times he talked to Naruto this past year could be counted on one hand. Hiruzen gave Irika a sympathetic look. I understand your concern, Irika. If it brings you some comfort, this exam will be the safest in years. One of the requirements we had to meet was to make the exams less deadly. If there is a time for young Jinin to participate in the exams, it is this one. Danzo huffed, showing his displeasure at the concept. Irika nodded. I understand, sir. Hiruzen addressed the room. The exams are only a little over a month away. Make sure your teams are prepared to represent the Leaf to the best of their abilities. Team 7 gathered at the heart of the village, their excitement palpable. Today, the Leaf Ninjas were embarking on a journey to the land of hot water for the much-anticipated Chunin exams. Anko and Kakashi meticulously reviewed the final preparations with their team. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto sat on a bench. Anko stood before them, and Kakashi leaned on a nearby lamppost. And remember, if you feel hostile or uncomfortable during an interaction with a ninja from a different village, leave the situation and come find us immediately, said Anko. Yeah, we get it. You've been telling us this for weeks now. I don't know why you have to keep repeating it, complained Naruto. Because half the things we tell you to go in one and out the other, said Anko. No, it doesn't, argued Naruto. Okay, what did I just tell you? Asked Anko. Something about being uncomfortable and coming to find you guys. My point stands. You should take this a little more seriously, Naruto. If you want to become Hokage, getting into trouble during the exams will look bad. Okay, I understand. I'm just so excited. Why can't we just leave already? During his excitement, Naruto got up from the bench and began to pace around, trying to burn some of his energy. Sakura rolled her eyes at Naruto's antics and asked her senseis a question. Have you guys been to the land of hot water before? Kakashi shook his head, and Anko gave a nope while popping the pea. I've maybe passed through the edge of its border, but I have never actually seen the bulk of the country, commented Anko. You too, Kakashi? Asked Sasuke, knowing that Kakashi had been to many places during his life. The land of hot water has always been a tourist destination, but it is not typically where many high-profile incidents happen. You haven't been there on vacation? Asked Sakura. Ha, vacation. Yeah, right. Who needs those? Dismissed Kakashi. Before Sakura could voice her concern over her teacher's lack of a healthy work-life balance, Naruto toppled backward as something slammed into him. Naruto groaned and rubbed his head as he got up. Hey, what the big idea? Naruto turned around to see a boy on the ground. He had short, spiky brown hair, blue eyes, and a small chip in his tooth. He wore a gray helmet with a hole at the top for his hair to stick out of, gray shorts, and a yellow shirt with a red Konoha symbol. The boy looked up at Naruto with anger in his eyes. Watch where you're going. You're the one who ran into me, you brat, said Naruto. Kanamaru? Anko said, recognizing the boy. Anko, Konohamaru said, his scowl fading as he flinched back, noticing her presence. He then ran behind Naruto, hid behind Naruto, and began peeking at Anko from around him. Naruto, unfazed, pointed a thumb at Konohamaru. You know this kid is? Yeah, he's the Hokage's grandson and the biggest brat in Konoha. Speaking of, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be with Konohamaru? A voice yelled, interrupting Anko. A man with dark hair and brown eyes was running down the street wearing black, circular sunglasses. He was wearing the standard Konoha Shinobi outfit without the flak jacket, and his forehead protector was like a bandana. The man stopped a few feet from Naruto, adjusted his glasses, and said, I urge you to stop distracting the honorable grandson from his studies. I'm not interrupting anyone. Naruto stepped away and pointed at Konohamaru. This kid ran into me. Did not. Did too. The man looked at Naruto. Naruto, I'll have to ask you again to stop harassing the honorable grandson. I still have to make a lot of progress before he enters the academy, he said with a bit of desperation. What Ebisu? Konohamaru is still running away from your boring-ass lectures. What a shock! Anko said in a sarcastic tone. Ebisu turned, noticing Anko's presence for the first time. Ebisu straightened his posture and adjusted his glasses. He gave Kakashi a nod of acknowledgement. Kakashi, it's a pleasure to see you. He then turned back to Anko. And to comment on my boring lectures, I have to ask, what do you know about teaching upcoming ninjas with the status level as Konohamaru? Yeah, actually, I've taught Jinin for the past year, said Anko, trying to sound nonchalant. Oh yeah, I heard about that. Your team has made quite a name for themselves over the past few months. Still, I suspect you are just riding on the coattails of a great ninja like Kakashi. Kakashi rolled his lone visible eye. That's rich coming from a glorified babysitter. I'll let you know that teaching the grandson of the Hokage is a very dignified position. Anko and Ebisu kept taking petty shots at one another as Sasuke and Sakura watched on the bench, moving their heads back and forth to the insults like they were at a tennis game. During this, Konohamaru looked up at Naruto with wide eyes. Wait, is your name Naruto? Naruto, still annoyed at Konohamaru, answered tartly, yeah, what's it to you? So it is you. You beat Grandpa, and I've been looking everywhere for you. Konohamaru then leaned in closer and whispered, you have to tell me how you beat the old man. I've been trying for ages, and nothing has worked. Naruto, happy to meet someone who appreciated his accomplishment, rubbed the back of his head. Well, there was nothing to it. I just used my sexy jutsu to take him down. Really? You have to show me how to do that. Sure, it's really easy. Let me show you. Naruto began to form the hand sign, but a cough interrupted him before he could begin channeling the chakra. He saw a stern-looking Anko on pause from her insult spar with Ebisu. Naruto, we talked about this, which, while helpful, is inappropriate to perform in the village, especially in front of a kid. Are we clear? Naruto held his head down and dropped his hands. Okay. Naruto mumbled dejected. Konohamaru whispered over to Naruto. You can just show me the hand signs, and I can do it myself? Naruto shook his head. Nah, that wouldn't work. For the jutsu to work, you need to visualize what you want to become. Plus, if we did it now, we might get in trouble for public indecency or whatever Anko calls it. Oh, that's too bad, Konohamaru said as his mood visibly dropped in disappointment. Naruto, feeling bad, came up with an idea. Hey, I can't teach you, but I can teach you later. Konohamaru looked up with hope in his eyes. Really? Yeah. It won't be now since I'm about to go to the exams and kick ass, but once I come back, I wouldn't mind showing you some awesome ninja skills I've picked up. I'm gonna hold you to that, boss, Konohamaru said, showing off his chipped smile. Boss, huh? Naruto rubbed his chin. I like that. As Anko's and Ebisu's spat died down, an Anbu suddenly appeared bowed, gaining everyone's attention. The Anbu looked to Anko. The Hokage wishes for your presence in his office. Is it urgent? No. And he specifically asked for you only because he has something to discuss with you. Really? But we are about to leave in a few hours, Anko said, thinking out loud. Thank you. I'll get there as soon as possible, replied Anko. The Anbu nodded, and then body flickered away. Well, it seems you are busy. Come to Konohamaru. We must continue your studies, said Ebisu as he hurried along Konohamaru. Konohamaru gave a deep sigh. Fine, he said as he began to walk over to Ebisu. As Ebisu took his leave, he turned to Anko and said, I hope your meeting doesn't bring ill tidings. Ebisu then continued on his way with Konohamaru. Konohamaru gave Naruto a thumbs up, and Naruto returned it. Sakura asked Anko, why do you and that guy hate each other so much? We don't hate each other. I couldn't tell, said Sasuke. We just two different people. He's never really liked me, and I don't like him, but we do have a basic amount of respect for each other as comrades, explained Anko. So, sis, do you have any idea what Gramps wants to talk to you about? Asked Naruto. Hell, if I know, I will get it out. You guys can stay here. I doubt the meeting will be long. Anko entered the office to see Hiruzen at his desk with his advisors standing behind him. Anko gave a slight bow. Hey, should I take a seat? That won't be necessary. This shouldn't be a lengthy discussion, said Hiruzen. Hiruzen glanced at his advisors, and Koharu and Hamaru nodded approval. Well, this has been a subject of discussion between us for a while now, and we've come to a decision. Hiruzen looked Anko directly in the eyes. Anko, since becoming a sensei, you have demonstrated a gift for teaching and a passion that rivals my own from back in my youth. You have also shown tremendous growth in your maturity as a ninja of Konoha. And with your defeat of Zabuza, your skills obviously outweigh your current position. Overwhelmed with emotion, Anko's eyes welled up with tears. She closed her eyes, half hoping that this was not just a dream. Hiruzen continued, "As you are being sent to represent the leaf with your team, we have decided that it's time for you to represent the leaf at your proper rank of Jonin." Anko ran forward, embraced Hiruzen, and began to cry into his robes. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Anko was light for a few more minutes until she finally recovered. Kohara gave her some tissues, and Anko accepted them. "Sorry about crying. I can't believe this is happening," Anko said, wiping away tears. "It's fine, but don't cry too much yet. There is another thing I want to give you." Anko looked at Hiruzen in anticipation. "As you know, we do not give out anything outside of the uniform to signify the Jonin rank. But since you don't wear it, I decided to give you something else to commemorate this moment. After much deliberation, I decided to trust something important." Hiruzen reached under the table and pulled out a tempered steel box covered in seals. He channeled chakra to his pointer finger and channeled chakra into 3 specific areas of the box, and the seals vanished. "When my teacher died, he left some of his most prized possessions to this office to be used at our discretion." Hiruzen opened the box and pulled out 2 items: a large journal with gold trimming, brimming with added notes, and a sizable rolled-up scroll. "This is Tobirama's personal research journal and his work-in-progress jutsu scroll. The only other person I've given this to was Minato. You have a bright mind, Anko, and I have no doubt that my teacher would be more than happy to let some of his research be handed down to someone like you." Anko closed her eyes. "Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just that if I open my eyes right now, I'll probably start crying again." Hiruzen chuckled. "Of course, since you are about to leave, I'll keep it in this office until you return for the exams. When you do, I will teach you how to seal and unseal the box to store it." Hiruzen then resealed both the scroll and the journal back into the back. Kohara spoke. "I have a few words for you, Anko." Anko opened her eyes and looked Koharu in the eyes. "I can't express how happy I am to be proven wrong about you. Over my years, I've seen ninjas who have gone through half as much as you did have to be discharged for the safety of themselves and others. To see you pull yourself out of your master's shadow and grow into the incredible young women before me. You are not only a strong shinobi, but you also hold a strong will as well." Overwhelmed by Kohara's heartfelt words, Anko couldn't hold back her tears. Koharu then handed over the whole box of tissues, and Anko accepted it. Hamura smiled. "Well, after that, I don't have much to add, but I hope you continue to prove us wrong." Anko turned to Danzo, who had sat unmoving the entire time. "What gives, old man? Don't have anything nice to say?" questioned Anko. If someone was perceptive or delusional enough, they might have seen Danzo's mouth twitch upward a minuscule amount. "I don't have anything to say. I have always felt that you have wasted your potential as a ninja, but now that you are using your intelligence and skills to help the village, I have no complaints," Danzo said. "Okay, party pooper," Hiruzen spoke. "While I wish I had more time to celebrate your achievement, Anko, we have to leave the village in a few hours, and I have to change out of the robes that have been snot over." Anko sniffed. "Sorry about that. Now get out of here. Go tell your team the good news." Anko gave a mock salute. "Yes, sir." She then hurried out of the office to go find her team. Anko practically skipped out of the Hokage Tower. She got some strange looks but didn't care. This was the happiest she had felt in years. As her mind drifted to her past, tears started forming at the corners of her eyes, which she wiped away quickly as he returned to her team. Team 7 was greeted by a jubilant Anko, her grin stretching from ear to ear, infectiously spreading joy. "What's got you so chipper?" asked Kakashi. Anko stopped and pointed at herself. "Guess who's no longer a special Jonin?" Naruto gasped. "Gramps fired you." Anko rolled her eyes. "No, I got promoted," she exclaimed, her voice brimming with glee at the word promoted. Naruto sprinted over to Anko and leaped at her. Anko caught him and began spinning him around. "That's amazing, sis." "Anko, let go of Naruto. I know I'm still in a little disbelief myself." Sakura got off the bench and went to give Anko a quick embrace. "I'm so happy for you, Sensei," Sakura said while smiling up at Anko. Sasuke had a slight smile on his face. "I'm glad to know that the elders are competent enough to make such an easy decision." Anko turned to Kakashi. "Anything to say?" Kakashi had already closed his book and had his eye closed. When he opened it, he began talking. "I'm not good at congratulations, so I'm just going to be honest. Before I started working with you, I felt you should have gotten a chance to become a Jonin. But since then, It has been clear to me that you deserve to be among the elite in the village. I know how much it means to you, and I'm happy to see you represent the village at your proper rank." Anko suddenly hugged Kakashi, who froze up upon the contact. That sounded more like a PR statement than congratulations, but it's the thought that counts, Anko said as she wiped away tears from her eyes. Kakashi let go of a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Come on, let's head to the gates before I start crying again," said Anko. As they went toward the gates, Anko was going over potential nicknames to give herself. "The Snake Mistress of Konoha? No, that's too long. You know you don't need a nickname, right?" said Kakashi. "Says the guy with the coolest nickname in Konoha," Anko said, a tinge of jealousy in her voice. "Are nicknames really that important?" asked Sakura. "Yeah, they are. Gaining a title or name can represent your reputation around the ninja world. They also put it on your page when you get in the bingo book." "That doesn't seem that important," Sakura commented as she thought of the utility of having a nickname. Anko shrugged. "It depends on how you look at it. And to be honest, if you guys live up to your potential, you'll get a nickname whether you like it or not. So it's better now you pick out one so you don't end up with something lame." "How is it you became less mature after you got your promotion?" Kakashi said. Anko, ignoring Kakashi, asked the genin a question. "So, what would you want your nicknames to be?" Naruto, prepared for this question, said, "I have gone through a lot of them, but the two I like the best are the Storm of the Leaf, or the Uzumaki Storm, or something similar." "Why Storm?" asked Sakura. "I thought of it because I can make a whole bunch of wind with my clones, and it sounds cool." Anko nodded. "I can respect that. What would you want your nickname to be, Sakura?" asked Naruto. Sakura looked up to the sky in contemplation. She had never thought of one before. A name suddenly crossed her mind. "Oh, I think something like Sakura of the Roots would be cool." Naruto stared at her blankly. "What does that even mean?" "It's because I go underground a lot, and I'm from the leaf, so trees and stuff," Sakura explained, becoming a little embarrassed. "Yeah, I still don't get it. It's not like your name is much better, Storm Bozo or whatever. Right, guys?" Sakura said as she looked to the others for support. Sasuke turned away. Anko shook her head in mock disappointment. Kakashi looked down at Sakura. "Sakura, do you want me to tell you the truth?" Sakura nodded. "That may be the worst nickname I've ever heard of." Sakura held her head down in despair. Anko put a hand on Sakura's shoulder. "It's okay. They can't all be winners." Naruto looked at Sasuke. "Do you have any nicknames you want, Sasuke?" "No." Of course, Sasuke had come up with a few he preferred to be called over the years, but he wasn't telling a soul that. That was only for him and his journal to know. As they arrived at the gates, they saw the teams congregating near the gate and some other ninjas going on the trip. They spotted Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma, who were already there with their teams, grouped together in conversation. Anko and Kakashi joined the other jonin, while Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto joined the other genin. "Yo!" Kakashi said as they walked over. "Ah, Kakashi, I see you were late again. Does it really count as being late if we haven't even left yet?" "It does, since we were given time to meet here. Showing up multiple hours early is the most youthful thing to do." "Well, if it makes you feel better, Guy, I'm actually the reason I was late this time. I had a meeting with the Hokage," said Anko. "Really? What was that about?" asked Asuma. "Guess who's a jonin?" said Anko, her joy from earlier back in full force. "You're kidding," said Kurenai. "No." Kurenai embraced Anko. "I'm so proud of you. We have to celebrate. Not now, of course, but maybe when we get to the land of hot water." "So, Dad has finally convinced those old coots of something," said Asuma. "Haha." Guy slapped Anko on the back hard, almost toppling her over. "I'm glad your youthful spirit has been rewarded, Anko." The jonin continued to talk about the details of Anko's promotion, while the genin were having a conversation of their own. After a while, the Hokage approached, surrounded by his guard of Anbu. Despite her mask, Yugao could be recognized as the squad leader due to her distinct purple hair. Many in the crowd took a bow upon seeing their Hokage. Hiruzen stepped forward, stood in the middle of the open gate, and faced everyone. "Before we embark, I would like to take the time to tell you how proud I am of each of you participating in these upcoming exams. You all represent the will of fire from the passing of teaching from sensei to student. Each of you will show the world that the leaf is still the strongest in our culture, village, and the ninjas we produce." His speech incited some cheers from the crowd. Hiruzen then began explaining the details of their travel. "Now, we will be running up to the border with one 30-minute break at the 3-hour mark. We should make it to the land of hot water by evening. The convoy then got into position with the Hokage leading the charge with his Anbu squad on all sides. The Genin were all in the middle, and the Jonin outlined the formation as they made their way to the Chunin exams. The convoy stopped at the border of the Land of Fire and began walking on the road to their destination. The path they were going down changed as dirt turned to stone. A small building came into view, with 2 guards posted outside. Once one of the guards saw their approach, one went back to say some words to someone stationed in the bullying. After a few minutes, a woman came out dressed in a formal yukata, with her hair down up in a lavish bun. Hiruzen stepped forward and began conversing with the woman. After a few minutes, he motioned for everyone to come forward. The woman started to speak as they approached. "Hello, Leaf Ninja. My name is Yuki, and welcome to the Valley of Hot Springs. Your Hokage and his escort will head to Center Spring to meet with the other leaders. I will lead the rest of you to the inn, where you will stay." Hiruzen stepped forward and said, "I urge you all to treat the land and people here respectfully. You should see me tomorrow when you head to Center Spring." The convoy followed Yuki through the valley, as they saw many road branches off of the main ones that led to a small collection of houses or a stand. Along a lot of the paths were stood, selling things from food to clothing. They passed a staircase that looked to lead up to a hill that had a market square at the top of it. Along the roads were benches and small sitting areas, each a reasonable distance away. Above were paper lanterns with seals on them, which had started to glow slightly as nighttime approached. "How do you guys find your way around with so many roads?" Asuma asked. "I know it may seem like a lot, but once you are here for a few weeks, it becomes easy to navigate yourself. Many visitors say that exploring the valley and finding shops and locations was the best part of their stay here," replied Yuki. "So, are we heading to where all the other participants are staying?" Kurinai asked. Yuki shook her head. "We have decided to keep each village separate from the competition. An inn is this way. The valley is structured strangely due to its history. Once Yugakure was dissolved, the surrounding region where the village was located went back under the control of the daimyo. Most of the surrounding forest was unused, and they discovered multiple significant springs in the area. This led to development all throughout the region, and many small towns, resorts, and inns were built around the springs. The center spring is what we call the former ninja village," explained Yuki. "So, where are the other villages staying? Some are staying in some of the towns here, some are staying at resorts, and one is staying at an inn like you. The one you are staying at is built around one of the smaller springs, but they have graciously offered to keep the onsen and rooms reserved for your village," said Yuki. They finally arrived at the inn once the sun was setting. The inn was a significant one-story building that stretched out into a circular pattern that surrounded the hot springs in the middle, which could be seen from outside. It may look small from the outside, but they have enough space here to fit all participants in your village comfortably. Yuki then took a bow. "Now, I bid you farewell. I hope you enjoy your stay in the valley." As they entered, each of the staff was waiting. The manager staying in the middle introduced himself. "Hello, Leaf Shinobi. Welcome to our establishment. We already have a list of everyone here. Once we announce your name, one of our workers will lead you to your room. Can we check out the hot springs?" Ino asked excited. "Yes, you can. After we escort you to your rooms, you are free to explore the inn to your heart's content," said the manager. For the room situation, each Genin team got their own room with 3 beds, while the Jonin had to pick from several 2-bedroom. Anko and Kurinai choose to room together, and Kakashi and Asuma choose to room together as well. Guy, instead of rooming with someone else, decides to use his personal green and orange futon that he brought at home to stay with Asuma and Kakashi. After the rooms were set, everyone went to enjoy the hot springs in the center of the inn. The entrance to the springs was overseen by a clerk, who, with the left side being labeled for men and the right for women, the hot springs were shaped into a large half circle with a thick wooden and bamboo divider. Naruto and Kiba had taken to taking turns dunking each other in the water. Chuji had begun to partake in the complimentary snacks given out at the inn while lounging near the edge, next to Shikamaru, who was in a deep sleep with a towel over his face. Rock Lee and Guy had to do laps around the springs, while Kakashi and Asuma were relaxing and preparing for the busy weeks ahead. Niji was meditating on top of the water, and Sasuke was sitting next to Shino, glaring daggers at Niji. Shino, noticing this, asked, "Does Niji's meditation irritate you to such a degree?" "No, it's not his meditation, just more him as a person. Shino thought about how insufferable Niji was just from his few hours' travel and his distasteful looks at his teammates. Understandable. On the girl's side, Ino was teasing Hinata. Hinata, this is your chance. Chance for what? Don't tell me you haven't thought about spying on Naruto with those eyes of yours. Ino began to laugh, but stopped when she felt Hinata's hand come across her face. Hinata was glaring at Ino. Don't joke about such things. It's unbecoming, Hinata said, her voice stern and forceful. Hinata then noticed that everyone was staring at her. Her face became bright red as she began to stammer. Sorry, Ino, Hinata paused, trying to explain her character actions. Ino busted out into laughter as the rest of the girls followed. Hinata, embarrassed, began to slowly sink herself into the water. I'm happy that you hold yourself to standards, Hinata, Kurenai said teasingly. Hinata sunk deeper into the hot springs. After leaving the hot springs and returning to their rooms, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura lay in their beds. Looking at the ceiling and unable to sleep, Naruto spoke. Are you guys still awake? Yeah, said Sakura. Sasuke sat up in his bed and nodded. I can't sleep. I'm just so pumped up for tomorrow, said Naruto. Yeah, but we have to, said Sakura. Guys, let's kick so much ass tomorrow. I want Anko and Kakashi Sensei to be proud of us and show everyone just how awesome we are, exclaimed Naruto. I can get behind that, Sasuke said. Tomorrow, we will show them what Team 7 can do, Sakura agreed. The genin rested that night, excited, anxious, and prepared for the challenges of the exams. Naruto was awakened by a ray of sunlight scanning his face. His sudden leap into consciousness flooded his body with excitement and anticipation. He jumped out of bed and straight into the air, yelling, "Let's do this!" Naruto was knocked off balance and fell to the ground after Sakura threw a pillow at his head. Sakura glared at Naruto and then lay back down to get a brief respite of sleep. However, as her head hit the mattress, she realized she had just thrown away her only pillow. She then groaned and sat up. Who screams when they first get up in the morning like that? Sakura asked, grouchy as she rubbed the sleep out of her eyes. Naruto sat up and rubbed the back of his head. Sorry, Sakura. I'm not used to waking up around other people. Sasuke's voice reverberated through the room. Both of you should get ready and prepare yourselves for today. We're not here on vacation. Naruto and Sakura searched for Sasuke's voice and found him meditating on the ceiling. How long you've been up? Asked Naruto. Since 5 a.m. I've already completed my morning exercises, taken a bath, and was just about finished with my meditations before your outburst, Sasuke said, his tone carrying a hint of annoyance. What's got you so serious? Sasuke sighed and dropped down off the ceiling and onto the floor. We can't afford to get caught up in the environment we are in. We are here for the exams and nothing else, Sasuke said. I understand, but it wouldn't hurt if we enjoyed the land of hot water while we were here. We only saw a little of it yesterday, but I can already tell that this is one of the most beautiful places in the world, said Sakura, finding the prospect of exploring the land exciting. Sasuke furrowed his eyes. Prancing around and smelling flowers may be enough for you too, but I didn't come here to waste playing around like a bunch of grade schoolers. Sakura was shocked at Sasuke's harsh words. Naruto glared at Sasuke. What's up yours this morning? You haven't been this much of a jerk in months. Sorrow filled Sasuke's eyes as he felt guilt rise within him. Sorry, it's just... Sasuke sighed and sat down on his bed. Sakura and Naruto waited for Sasuke to continue. Over the past year, they had learned that Sasuke often lashed out when he needed to express his emotions. However, he would later apologize and explain himself after collecting his thoughts. Sasuke looked down at the floor and spoke. I put so much effort into getting stronger. I've always said that I didn't need or want recognition. Still, I think I was just telling myself that just to make myself feel better, I wanted to be recognized for my strength and ability, to have my hard work be evident. That's why I despise being called a prodigy or talented. It makes it seem like all the hard work I've done doesn't exist. I used to train constantly with no breaks, eating to sustain my energy and sleeping only out of exhaustion. I practiced fire just until my throat was raw. I felt like I would die from chakra exhaustion. I'm not good gifted just because I'm an Uchiha or just a natural genius. I'm good at being a ninja because I worked my ass off. Sasuke looked up at his teammates. I feel the same about this team. The hours we have spent training together, the times when we have been so exhausted that we have to be carried back home, the the hundreds of hours of spars. I want people to see and acknowledge the work we've put in. I don't want all of it to be for nothing, Sasuke expressed, his eyes filled with determination and a hint of vulnerability. Naruto grinned. Give Sakura and me a little more credit. Of course, we're ready, Naruto declared with a determined look, his eyes shining with confidence. I understand where you're coming from, but try to calm down. You're supposed to be the leveled-headed one between the three of us, said Sakura. A small smile came across Sasuke's face. Thanks guys, you're right. What an impassioned speech. Even Guy would be proud of that one. They frantically turned to the corner of the room to see Kakashi leaning against the room wall, flipping through pages of his Ika. How long have you been there? Asked Naruto. Kakashi shrugged. Who knows? Anyway, go ahead and get ready. Breakfast is in 30 minutes, and we will leave a little after. I thought the exams didn't start until 10 a.m., questioned Sakura. Yeah, it doesn't, but this place is pretty far from the center spring, so we have to depart earlier. Kakashi then performed a shooing motion with his hand. Now hurry along. You know how much I would hate it if we were late. The genin rolled their eyes and exited the room to escape their teacher. After breakfast, the genin and their sensei made their way to center spring. It was pretty easy to follow the path since it was a straight shot as soon as they reached the main road. Sakura looked around, still amazed at the infrastructure in such a large area. The roads were all stone, and the bushes and surrounding grass looked well-maintained everywhere they went. As they approached Center Spring, they began to see more and more people on their way there. Why are there so many tourists here already? I thought the tournament wasn't supposed to be here until the end of the month? Asked Tintin. They are commercializing the entire exams. It was one of the conditions we had to agree to host here, said Anko. Commercialize how? Questioned Shino. The first two exams have had a betting market created around them. Most of the people you'll see are business owners and wealthy patrons coming here to place bets. The third exam will be broadcast via cameras throughout the entirety of the elemental nations, explained Kurenai. Really? Ino said as she got lost in thought, imagining herself being praised by hundreds of thousands. That's awesome. We'll be like action stars, said Kiba. Is this the first time the exams will be broadcasted? Asked Sakura. It's not, actually. Stepping back from a group of leaf ninjas in front of them and joining a conversation. A genin with onyx eyes and ash-gray hair and a ponytail, he had black-rimmed circular glasses. He wore a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a white undershirt, and dark purple pants with a white cloth waistband. Additionally, he donned dark purple fingerless gloves, armored plates on the back of the hand, and a blue forehead protector. Sorry for butting in. My name is Kabuto, and I've competed in the exams a lot over the years. A few years ago, the exams were broadcasted in Konoha, but from my memory they had a bunch of technical issues, which kept it from catching on, explained Kabuto. How many times have you taken the exams? Asked Naruto. This would be my 6th attempt. 6. Shouted both Naruto and Kiba. Niji scoffed and looked away, losing the little interest he had in the conversation. Are the exams really that difficult? Asked Hinata. At least to me they are, but I'm not too good, so I don't think my experience counts for much. But I'm sure you guys don't have much to worry about with you being favorites and all, said Kabuto. Favorites? Shikamaru said, his curiosity piqued. Oh, have you not seen the betting odds for the teams? Asked Kabuto. How would you even bet? There is not enough information about us to do it logically, reasoned Shikamaru. Jonin had to make a dossier on their teams, who you are, where you come from, your backgrounds, mission records, etc. The betters, said Anko. Why didn't you tell us? Asked Kiba. We decided that you guys shouldn't worry about how you are perceived by the public, explained Kakashi. If you're interested, the final round of betting was released yesterday, said Kabuto. Let not, Kurenai said as she tried to dissuade the genin. No, I want to know, said Naruto, with the rest of the genin in agreement. Asuma shrugged. What would be the harm? Well, just let me look at this. Kabuto pulled out a portion of a newspaper that looked like it had been cut out, unfolded it, and began examining it as they walked. Yep, just like I remember, Team 10, Team 8, and Team 7 are all in the top 20 for betting. Being in the top 20 means we were favorites? Asked Choji. Yes, over 150 teams are participating in these exams. 150? What about us? Where are we ranked? Asked Tintin. Kabuto scanned the paper with his finger as he went through the list. You guys are tied for 55th place. Niji, who was pretending to not care, spun around and asked in a disgusted tone, "How is that even possible?" His glare focused on Hinata, who reacted by slipping beside Kurenai to get out of his sight. Kiba stepped toward Niji and said, "Maybe you are not such hot shit as you thought you were. It's probably because of the dossier we had to write. Whatever Guy wrote probably turned away betters." Tintin and Niji spun around to Rockley and Guy, who were walking on their hands behind the group, doing 5 handstand push-ups every 2 steps. Tintin put on a pleasant smile. "Hey Sensei, what did you put in the dossier?" Guy smiled and gave a thumbs up, which looked like a thumbs down from his position. "Oh, my wonderful student. I've compiled everything neatly in a 300-page document of all your achievements and youthful adventures." Niji and Tintin went slack-jawed at Guy's statement. "How big were yours?" Tintin asked Anko. "Maybe a page and a half." Tintin pulled out 2 kunai and threw the blunt end of both at Guy and Lee. They both hit their lower abdomen, causing them to fall over from their handstands. Lee moaned as he held his stomach. "Oh, Tintin, that was a youth-filled toss. But why did you attack me?" asked Lee. "Because both of you support each other in your psychosis-filled life that you call youth," Tintin said. "This is why we didn't want to tell you about the betting. Going in with a chip on your shoulder or knowing you're one of the favorites can affect your exam performance," said Kurenai. "Why are we favorites anyway? I understand Team 7, but we haven't done stuff close to as impressive," questioned Shikamaru. "For Teams 8 and 10, you all have clan heritage. The Konoha clans are some of the most famous among the civilian population. Teams 10 and 8 are ranked 12th and 15th. Then Team 7 is in a near tie for second with a team from Cloud," explained Kabuto. "Who's in front of us?" asked Naruto. "It's a dead tie between the team from IWA, which I heard has the Tsuchikage's granddaughter, and a team from Suna, made of the Kazekage children. So it's all about status, huh?" said Sasuke solemn at the thought. "Don't get too caught up in these bets, odds, and favorites. Just focus on doing your best," encouraged Anko. The Genin nodded to agree. They went through the statement, trying to ignore the betting odds, but it was still in their minds. They finally arrived at Center Springs, surrounded by a village that appeared to lead up to a much more ornate city on the hilltop, accessible via a large staircase. The town had residential homes, small farmlands, and merchant stands surrounding a central area, situated on top of a large hill. As they ascended the steps and entered the gates, Yuki, the woman from yesterday, greeted them. "Oh good, you're here. You arrived just in time, and the commencement ceremony is about to begin." "Wow, there's how many people?" commented Naruto, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness as he took in the bustling crowd. "Many of our inns and hotels are already reserved for next month. We are currently designated land outside Center Spring for visitors to set up camps," explained Yuki. As they got closer to the square, Yuki stopped and said, "Okay, the Genin will keep going to the square, and when you get there, you'll see the designated spot for your village. The Jonin may follow me, and I'll show you where you will be during the ceremony." As they entered the plaza, stone ramparts surrounded the square where the Jonin stood. A symbol of each village was on the ground, designating where each participant would stand. The minor villages had a section to themselves. In front of them, there was a stage for the Genin. They then lined up where the leaves were designated, standing between sand and cloud. After a few minutes, the daimyo of the land of Hot came onto the stage from the left. The Kage from the major villages followed him, who went on the stage from the side and stood in front of their respective villages. They were followed by the leaders of the minor villages, with the only village head absent from Hidden Rain. Going right to left, the Kazekage, Raza, stood tall with auburn hair and dark eyes. He usually had a very stern look on his face. He wore a simple black jacket and pants with mesh armor underneath, as well as the standard attire of the Kazekage, a loose-fitting green kimono with a white collar and a hat with the kanji for wind. Additionally, he carried a small canister strapped to his hip. Next to him was Hiruzen, who was wearing his standard Hokage garb. The Raikage stood in front of the Cloud Genin. He had dark skin, a large muscular build, combed back blonde hair, a small mustache, and a goatee. His face had pronounced cheekbones and pointed canines, and his top lip was darker than his bottom. He wore a white haori without a shirt underneath and had on the Raikage hat. He had black Fuma shuriken tattoos on both shoulders and wore large, golden vambraces on his wrists. He wore a gold belt around his waist, a boar's face engraved in the center, black torn pants, kimonin shin guards, and shinobi sandals. Next to him was the Mizukichi. Yagura was a young-looking adult, relatively short, with short, messy, gray hair. His hair fell over the right side of his face and spiked up on the left. He had pupil-less pink eyes and a stitch-like scar from under his left eye down his cheek. Unlike the other Kage, he wasn't wearing traditional Kage robes. Instead, he wore a gray, sleeveless shirt with the Kiri forehead protector attached to the front, short-sleeved mesh armor, and a green poncho. He also had a turquoise sash around his waist, a matching green apron over his pants, and a pair of brown boots. Additionally, he carried a club with uneven-sized hooks, which had a green flower on the larger end. And at the end was Inoki, a very short, old man with a triangular beard, a mustache with angular corners, a big red nose, and thick eyebrows. The top of his head was completely bald. However, he had long white hair on the lower half of his head, styled in a traditional chamage haircut, the back of which was tied with a yellow ribbon into a top knot. Inoki wore a split-apart green coat divided into 4 sections with yellow trimmings and a red collar. He had both sleeves on his shirt, but kept the single lapel on his right side. Along with this, he wore sandals. Before the speech began, Naruto focused on a strong feeling as he approached the square. He closed his eyes. It felt like his chakra was spinning at an incredible speed, and his body began to feel hot. Then, he sensed 5 different chakra signatures in the area. Naruto opened his eyes and looked towards the section where the minor village's genin seated. His gaze instantly focused on a girl gathered among the genin from Hidden Waterfall. She was a petite, caramel-skinned kunoichi who wore an orange clip in her short, layered mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short, sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over them. Her forehead protector was worn on her right arm. She also carried a cylindrical object wrapped in red on her back. She bounced on her heels and bobbed her head like dancing to a rhythm only she could hear. She turned to Naruto, smiled toothily, and procked to converse with someone next to her. Naruto then turned toward the ramparts where the Jonin stood. He spotted a Cloud, Jonin. She had long, straight, blonde hair bound with taut bandages, dark eyes, and red lipstick. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple blouse, black pants with a cloud-like design, purple fingerless gloves, and a chain of blue beads wound around her left hand. She also wore the standard Kumogakure forehead protector, sandals, and a kunai holster strapped to her right thigh. Additionally, she had bandages around her arms and legs and a red belt around her waist. She was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, uninterested in the events around her. Naruto noticed that she looked at him out of the corner of her eye. A brief flash of interest showed on her face before she turned away and continued to stare forward blankly. Naruto panned over to where the Iwa Jonins were. He saw a man with red hair, a mustache, and a beard that tapered off to a point. The man was wearing a large headpiece with a 3-pointed crown-like ridge. He also had an Iwagakure forehead protector, a ring, and a prominent gray piece of armor running across his cheeks and the bridge of his nose. His outfit included a long-sleeved magenta kimono shirt and pants, a mesh armor shirt, a fitted black suit underneath, and calf-length sandals. Around his waist, he wore a brown sash that held a brown armor-like breastplate with a front pouch. He stood at attention, but turned toward Naruto and gave him a nod. Naruto then turned his attention to the Kage on the stage. He focused on the Mizukichi. His chakra felt unmoving and dead, as if it was at a standstill. Naruto looked at him for a few moments longer, but Gaara gave no indication that he knew of Naruto's presence. Naruto then focused on the last resonating presses of chakra. When he turned to look at his surprise, a boy was already staring back at him. The boy had fair skin, green eyes, and short auburn hair. He lacked distinctive pupils or eyebrows, had tanuki-like black rings around his eyes, and wore a black bodysuit with an open neck, t-shirt-like sleeves, and almost full-length leggings. With this, he wore a white cloth over his right shoulder and the left side of his hips. He had a wide leather band from his left shoulder to his right hip, with which he carried his sand gourd and wrapped his forehead protector around. A manic smile spread across his face, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. He quickly looked straight ahead, sweating. Sakura noticed Naruto's panicked state. "Are you okay, Naruto?" Naruto nodded dumbly. "Yeah, just a little nervous." Sakura didn't fully believe him, but she resigned herself. The daimyo of Land of Hot Water stepped forward to the mic on stage. "I welcome all of you today to our beautiful paradise, our home. I want to thank all the villages participating in the Chunin exams. It's a time-honored tradition that brings us together to showcase our individual strengths, determination, and the unbreakable bond between us all. These exams are not just a test of skill and prowess, but a testament to the unity and camaraderie that thrive within our shinobi. Let us celebrate this opportunity to learn from each other, forge new alliances, and demonstrate the unwavering spirit of the ninja. As we embark on this journey, may the spirit of fair competition guide us, and may the bonds between us grow even stronger. Good luck to all the participants, and may the best shinobi rise to the top." The crowd erupted with claps and cheers. The daimyo waited for the crowd to quiet down and said, "Now, you may follow the exam proctors to the first test." They arrived at the building for the first exam. It spanned a lengthy distance, and you could barely see the back of it from the front. It had 5 large front doors, each labeled 1 through 5. As the crowd of young ninjas settled, one of the proctors stepped forward and began to speak. "Okay, through these doors are identical obstacle courses. This course will test each of you to see if you and your teams have the baseline skills necessary to participate in this exam. The course must be completed within 10 minutes. You will be disqualified if your team cannot continue or if one or multiple team members are absent when you finish the course." A genin raised their hand and asked, "Do we need a whole team to pass?" "Yes, and one more thing. With each team's run through the course being timed, we decided that the teams with the top 5 times would get a bonus for the next stage of the exams." That comment caused a slight uproar among the genin. "Okay, we will now announce team names and what doors you will go to. Once you hear your name, you will be disqualified if you do not enter the door within 2 minutes." The proctors invited the first batch of teams to the doors and let them enter the course. After around half an hour of little talk and tempered anxiety, Team 7 was called to door 3. The 3 of them sped off through the front of the crowd and got to the door in under 15 seconds. The proctor gave an impressed nod and opened the door. "Remember, the course begins once you cross the line." They stepped through the door, and before them was a long hallway. As they approached the light, they entered a room filled with water. In front of them, along the edge of the water, the wood was a red line. On the far side of the room was an open doorway that led to another long hallway. Sakura took a deep breath and turned to Naruto and Sasuke. "Are you guys ready?" Sasuke nodded, and Naruto began to hop up and down and do exaggerated stretches. "You know it. I'll count down," said Sasuke. "Okay, let's go on 1, 3, 2, 1 inch." Water splashed upward as the 3 of them sprinted to the other side of the room, and obstacles began to rise from underneath it. Naruto put his hands in the ram hand sign, summoned 4 clones, and had them stop before the obstacles. Recognizing the maneuver, Sasuke and Sakura jumped up into the air above the clones, with Naruto following suit. The clones then went through hand signs and performed wind release, great breakthrough. This launched the 3 of them above the room's obstacles, and they used the momentum to jump over to the other side of the room. They landed and continued their stride into the hallway, leading out of the room to the next room. As they reached the end of the hallway, they came to a circular room with 6 doors. There were no visible markings or indicators of where each door led. "Sakura," said Sasuke. Not needing any further explanation, Sakura bent down on one knee and placed her hand on the ground. On it, Sakura closed her eyes and channeled her chakra through the ground. She began to map out the path through each door. Sakura then discovered that each door led to the same place, but each went through a labyrinth, with each door putting you at a different spot in the maze. After recognizing multiple dead ends and traps, Sakura sensed the outline of a room at the end of the maze. Sakura opened her eyes and pointed to a door on the left. "That one." The 3 of them burst through the door and went into the labyrinth. "Take 2 rights and a left, and then 1 more right," Sakura informed. As they took the final right, they entered a long hallway leading to another room. It was completely blank when they entered, with no entrances or windows. "I thought you said this was the right way," asked Naruto. There had to be no other path forward unless Sakura began to disrupt her chakra to check for genjutsu. Sasuke was already on it as he activated his Sharingan and scanned the room. He spotted a concentration of chakra in the corner of the room. "There," Sasuke said as he pointed to the corner. All 3 of them yelled "Kai" as the disrupted chakra, revealing a hatch in the corner of the room. Sasuke yanked it open, Revealing a ladder, they descended around 15 feet. Sasuke jumped down, and Naruto and Sakura followed. When they landed, they went forward, and as they advanced, the flat ground became a slope as they went upward. Once the ground leveled out, they saw the light from outside at the end of the hallway. This empowered them, as they began channeling as much chakra as possible to their lands as they dashed forward at blazing speed. As they exploded from the tunnel, they were nothing but blurs. As they slid across the ground, trying to stall their momentum, they were surrounded by other participants in the clearing. Team 7 looked at the leaderboard to see that their time was right at the top, at 2:25. Naruto yelled as he hugged his teammates and began to jump around. The outburst attracted attention, but they didn't care as they enjoyed the moment. After the moment, they waited and watched to see if anyone would beat their time. Team 8 was the first to come close. They had a time of 3:02, which put them in 6th place. When they finished, they came over to Team 7. Kiba whistled as he looked over to see Team 7's time. Man, I thought we were doing well. I don't see how anyone can beat that. Don't sell yourself short. You guys did awesome, said Naruto. We did quite well, but I doubt we would have had such a good time if you hadn't been so focused and composed. Hinata, Shino complimented. No, I didn't. Sakura gave Hinata a stern look. You should accept the compliment, Hinata. Shino doesn't give them out lightly. Hinata took a deep breath and smiled. You're right. Thank you, Shino. Team 10 exited their tunnel next, completing the test at 9:50. The three were exhausted as they exited the tunnel and sat nearby. Team 7 and 8 went over and greeted them. Man, you guys really cut it close. What happened? Both of us got under 3 minutes, bragged Kiba. Actually, our time was a little over 3 minutes, Shino clarified. Same difference, said Kiba. Not everyone has special eyes or sensing abilities to get through a maze, said Shikamaru through labored breaths. The Leaf teams continue to sit there and banter, waiting for the exam to be over. As the last teams ran the gauntlet, Naruto thought out loud. Man, I wonder if Tintin and Bushy Brows have gone through yet. It would suck if they didn't pass. It wouldn't suck that bad. That would mean we wouldn't have to deal with Niji, said Kiba. Just as a gust of wind came from the second tunnel, Team Guy burst in. They were all composed, and Niji immediately turned to them with a cocky smirk, which then turned into a slight frown upon seeing the leaderboard. Team Guy was in second place at 2:27. Naruto grinned and did a fake laugh at Niji. Haha, a crease formed on Niji's forehead, and he looked away and walked to sit down somewhere. Wow, it must be hard for him to carry around that much ego, said Ino. After another half hour, the final teams finished the course, and the proctors came to the back of the building and spoke. Good job, everyone. Quite a few passed, but that's okay. This was more of an evaluation for the subsequent examination, which will be a lot more complicated. Those who have not placed in the top 5, please follow the proctors to the starting location of the next test. Those who had wait here. We will hand you your reward. Team 8 and 10 said their goodbyes as they and the other genin began to make their way to the next test. As the top teams gathered and waited, Sasuke examined the top competitors. Each name was on the leaderboard, and it took some time to determine each genin's identity. Team 7 kept their top spot, with Team Guy following close behind in a close second. In the third spot was a team from Cloud that consisted of Omio, Samui, and Karui. Omio was a young Kumonin with short, spiky, white hair and dark eyes accentuated by upward curving eyelashes. He wore a dark outfit, which included an overlong shirt with a hood, red bandage handguards, Kumogakure shin guards, a black forehead protector, and a Kumogakure flak jacket. He had a thoughtful expression and was sucking on a lollipop. Additionally, he carried a long sword on his back. Samui, a tall, fair-skinned girl, stood with a stoic, aloof expression. She had blue eyes and straight, shoulder-length blonde haircut in an asymmetrical bob style. She wore a low-cut outfit that displayed her cleavage, with mesh armor underneath, a short skirt, red handguards, and high boots. She also carried a tanto strapped horizontally to her lower back. Karui is a dark-skinned kunoichi with long, spiky red hair and amber eyes. She wore a long, short-sleeve dress with frilly edges, 2 simple yellow earrings, fishnet stockings, thigh-high boots with white soles, and a forehead protector, which she wore like a bandana. She also carried a long sword on her back. Sasuke's gaze went over the IWA team, which consisted of Kuratsuchi, Suzumabachi, and Ibuki. Kuratsuchi had short, black hair, and distinct pink eyes. She wore the standard attire of the IWA Nin, consisting of a red uniform with her right sleeve missing and a lapel over her right leg, fishnet tights, and a skirt over them. She also wore regular Shinobi sandals and gloves. She had a blade in a red and gold ornate sheath on her waist. Suzumabachi had shoulder-length brown hair with a single lock falling onto the right side of her face and going over her right eye just slightly. She had steel gray eyes with orange markings in the corner. She wore what appeared to be an altered purple kimono dress with red trimmings. She wore a yellow sash around her waist and thigh-length stockings that merged into her sandals. Ibuki had spiky brown hair that puffed out like an afro, with a fake explosive tag hanging off one of the ends. He had dark blue eyes, wore the standard IWA ninja uniform but had both sleeves missing, and wore red pants and brown shinobi sandals. He then looked at the team from Suna, which consisted of Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro. He recognized Gaara, who had looked at them since they arrived. Temari had teal eyes and sandy blonde hair, gathered into 4 consecutive pigtails. She wore a single light purple off-the-shoulders garment that extended halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. Additionally, she incorporated a fishnet worn over her shoulders and legs, specifically on her right calf. She left thigh and wore her black forehead protector around her neck. Kankuro wore purple face paint in a triangular design. He also wore a black, baggy, full bodysuit with a red and yellow circle on the front. A black hood covered his entire head, featuring cat-like ears and a forehead protector. In the brief intermission, the proctors ordered the teams to stay apart. Despite that, Kuratsuchi broke that rule and approached Team 7. As she approached, Sakura her hand out and greeted her. "Hello, my name is Sakura." The girl walked past Sakura and ignored her hand as she walked before Sasuke. She squinted her eyes and began to examine Sasuke closely. Sasuke did his best to maintain his calm and uninterested demeanor, but he began to falter under the girl's intense gaze. "So you're the last Uchiha, huh? You don't look like much, but if you could lead these chumps to the top spot, you must have some skill." She backed away slightly and introduced herself. "My name is Kura." "Hey, why didn't you introduce yourself to me and Sakura?" said Naruto. Kurostuchi rolled her eyes. "Because I don't recognize your clan names, and I doubt clanless ninjas would be worth conversing with." You. Naruto stammered, his anger overwhelming his speech. "I have you know that I will be the next Hokage." Kurostuchi laughed. "Like someone of no status, like you could be a Kage. The only people who become Kages are those among the strongest in the world, and those closely related to current ones. Since I'm both of those, I'm a lock for the next Tsuchikage." "What do you mean by both?" "My Gramps is the Tsuchikage, and since I'm easily the most talented of my generation, I'll get to take his place when he kicks the bucket. Fodder like you two will most likely deliver messages about Iwa's victory in the next war." "Shut it," Sasuke yelled. His volume surprised everyone and got everyone's attention. "Do not denigrate my teammates, clan or not. They have worked hard to get here, and don't need to flex who their family is to make themselves feel better." Kurostuchi put her hands up in a placating gesture, and a cocky smirk came across her face as she started to back away. "So, the Uchiha has a backbone. Hopefully, that will keep you alive. A fight with you will be interesting." She then made her way back to her team. Naruto began ranting. "Oh my god, that girl is just so insufferable, spoiled, uptight, ugly, mean, spiteful, rude, and bratty." Sakura's calm tone rising in anger as she continued. "Yeah, all of those," Naruto said, a little dumbfounded. "Ignore her. She just trying to get under our skin," said Sasuke. "Thanks, Sasuke, by the way, for standing up for me and Naruto." Sasuke huffed. "I just told her the truth. Who she thinks she is, evaluating people by their names." Then, the proctors produced a box with a hole in it and placed it on a table. "Okay, inside are slips of paper that have information on them that can assist in the next exam. They won't make much now, but they will once the next exam starts. One member of each team may come to grab a slip at random and make their way east to the starting area of the second exam. On the other side of the city is a lounging area for the Jonin." "Woo, that's what I'm talking about," Anko yelled as she downed more drink. "Anko, they've been in first place for about an hour. You don't have to keep yelling about it," scolded Kurinai. "For real, it's not like they won the whole thing. I'm just glad my team passed," said Asuma. "I agree with Anko. We should tell the world about our team's youthful accomplishments during the first test. That's what I'm talking about, guy. Anko yelled through the lounge, getting some eye rolls. A Sand Jonin, tired of Anko's outbursts, turned around and yelled, "It's not that much of an achievement. This exam is a joke, a nicely packaged product for the civilians to eat up because they can't handle what it means to be a ninja. You've probably just mad your team failed," said Anko. Her comment clearly hit a nerve, but the Jonin continued. He gestured around the room. "We all probably went through hell during our exams, so why should these kids get an easier test?" "Oh, that's great logic. I was traumatized. Why can't they be too?" Anko quipped, inciting some chuckles from around the lounge. The Sand Jonin rolled his eyes and turned back forward to his drink. As the room quieted down and went back to regular conversation, Kakashi said, "Are these exams really that safe?" "What do you mean?" asked Guy. "I don't know how peaceful this place is. It's off-putting. I think you're just uncomfortable with being at rest. This place is paradise, or whatever they call it. I haven't heard of anything major happening here in years," assured Asuma. "Maybe you're right. I might be worrying too much." In a cave deep underneath the land of hot water, the Valley of Hell was an extensive open cave system with a red lake and river, with the minerals in the soil creating a blood-like appearance. Deep into the valley was an old abandoned village which was in ruins, the dark red river running through the center of the village. A man with beige hair, a mustache, a goatee, and violet eyes is wearing a baggy light brown tunic decorated with green and khaki stripes along each hem. Underneath, he has a teal shirt and pale green pants. He also wears a red headband under his hair and oversized diamond-shaped sunglasses. He wears a pink bangle on his right wrist, and he has plain flip-flops on his feet. He was shifting through the remains of a rotted structure. A young girl walked behind him, kicking rocks. She has long, waist-length, spiky, light blonde hair with two thick strands reaching onto her rosy cheeks. Her violet eyes are complemented by small brows. Her outfit consists of a black high-collared sleeveless undershirt, a sleeveless pink kimono-like shirt, long light gray pants, black fingerless gloves that reach her upper arm, a brown pouch wrapped around her waist, white bandages wrapped up to her knees on both legs, a brown belt, and gray sandals. In a place so bare, she struggled to find anything to do to distract herself from the ruins of her village. She walked toward the rock she kicked, and she came to the water's edge. In the bloody-colored water were multiple skeletons and a skull stuck at the bottom, the empty sockets staring back at her. As she stared down, she heard footsteps and looked to see the source. Upon seeing who it was, she turned toward the man shifting through the rubble and said, "And some guy is coming," her voice cold. She went next to a rock wall and sat down, putting her knees to her chest. Inside, as he emerged from the rubble and turned to meet the gaze of his new guest, a man with medium-length gray hair that was slicked back and distinctive purple eyes. He wore an open black leather jacket with fur on the nape, revealing his Yugikure forehead protector around his neck and Jashin amulet. His forehead protector bore a slash across the village symbol and blue pants with long, black shinobi sandals. On his shoulder, he was carrying a triple-bladed scythe. "I have to ask, why are you in this graveyard, Haydn?" said In. "Oh, you know of me," Haydn said with a smile. "Of course I do. You're the guy who went on a murder spree before you left Yugakure. I also heard that you caused quite a stir at the Colosseum when I was out." "Oh, about that. Do you think you can get me unbanned?" asked Haydn. "Only if you promise not to kill everyone you face." "Never mind them," dismissed Haydn. "Now, while I enjoy a good chat, I have to ask how in the hell you know of this place, and better yet, how did you know I would be here?" and asked, his tone hinting at a veiled threat. "To be honest, I wasn't looking for you. I've known of this place for a long time. I just happened to see you enter and recognize you, to think that the famous Inoyashiro is a part of the Chinko clan. I'm not," and gestured to the girl. "She is. I took her from here years ago. She was the only survivor. We're here now to look for any information to train her in her Kekkei Genkai." "Really? That's the story?" Haydn said, not fully believing in. "Yes, that's the story. Now drop it and tell me what you want from me." Haydn dropped the issue and decided to explain his offer. "I wish for help with causing a slaughter." "Why would I want to help you?" Haydn threw over a blood-covered book journal. "That is the full roster for everyone in these exams. I grabbed it off some chump earlier this week. I know you are looking for young kids with Kekkei Genkai. This exam is a goldmine for them." And looked over the names. It was true. Some of the world's rare bloodlines gathered in one place. Why? What's your motive? Asked In. Haydn spread his arms wide. My motive, outside of offering sacrifices for my wonderful Lord Jashin. Haydn's smile turned into a grimace. The pacifists above believe they are invincible, that their little paradise is permanent and impenetrable. Do you know how much fear was in this nation in the years after I left? But that has all but faded now. They no longer fear death. They no longer fear Jashin, and as the humble man I am, I realize such a task will be challenging to do on my own, so I'm asking for help. What would you want? It's simple. If you help me kill and make sacrifices to my lord, I'll help you capture any cattle you want to recruit. And rolled it over in his head. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You drive a hard bargain. I'll accept. He turned to the girl. Chino, get your things. We'll head out soon. Chino gave no response and continued sitting. So when will we start? A manic smile spread across Haydn's face. Lord Jashin blessed us with perfect timing. They leave the Valley of Springs in a few hours. How convenient. Does your god often line things up for you like that? Only when a bloodbath is on its way. At the edge of the Valley of Spring on top of a large hill, they overlooked a large forest just outside the valley. The proctors used a building on top of the hilltop. Right outside, the passing teams were scattered about the area, conversing with themselves. The top 5 teams from the previous test arrived at the hilltop. The paper they received now on all of their minds. Each team received a folded piece of paper with the same phrase at the top of the page. Rising to the top is no easy feat, but staying there is much more difficult. Below the quoted phrase was an attached envelope with the following stated on it. Do not open until instructed, or else you and your team will be instantly disqualified. None were stupid or brave enough to test it, so the envelopes remained sealed. Gunma was inside the small building, going through various stacks of papers and twirling a sunbon between his fingers. He was double-checking the numbers of the teams that passed the first test. At the start of the exams, 154 teams participated, with 56 teams failing, leaving 98 for this stage. Gunma clicked his tongue at the number. He knew they should have made the first test more difficult, but what could he do now? In a worst-case scenario, the testing area would be slightly overcrowded. Hey Gunma, one of the proctors appeared in the doorway. What's up? Asked Jinna. Everybody's here. Are you ready? Gunma sighed, got out of his chair, and placed his sunbon back into his mouth. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this over with. Gemma stepped out of the building to see the other proctors lining up. He positioned himself in front of them and whistled loudly, silencing the murmurs of conversation and getting the crowd's attention. Gunma then began to speak loudly. Congratulations to all of you for passing the first test. I'll now go over the rules for this next test. This area on the other side of this hill will be the participation area for this test. The area limits for this test are the east and north shorelines and a large river to the south. This test will be a battle royale style competition where over 2 days, your goal will be to survive and fight. Each of you will be given these. Gunma presented a copper coin with a sun on it. These copper coins represent 1 point, and every genin will start with 1. Each team will start out with 3 points to begin the test. The more points you have, the better your chances of advancing to the next round. Gemma then held up a smaller, bigger silver coin with a waterfall engraved on it. These silver coins are worth 5 points and will be placed at landmarks in the area. What counts as landmarks? Yelled a genin. Anything of note, caves, ruins, significant water sources, ancient trees, etc. They will also be well hidden. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean it won't be there. Gunma paused for a moment to wait for any other questions and continued. Killing is discouraged but not disallowed. We encourage each one of you to show mercy whenever possible. During the test, proctors will patrol the area. If you interfere with them, you will be disqualified. They will also escort disabled teams out of the area. What if we need a medic? If you need more comprehensive medical attention, then you can provide yourselves. I encourage you to find a proctor and have them escort the injured, but your team will be disqualified if you do so. Gunma continued. The exam's final round will be a limited capacity tournament. Only the top 7 teams will move on to the next round. By the end of the 2-day cycle, your goal will be to return with as many points as possible to pass on to the next round. Of course, if your team loses all your coins and has 0 points, you will be disqualified from the exam. If you leave the designated area, you will be disqualified. Now, before we head out to the starting areas, Will the top 5 teams from the last round step forward? The 5 teams step forward to the front of the crowd. Okay, now all of you may open the envelope and remove its contents, Gunma directed. Sakura reached into her pouch and grabbed the envelope. She batted Naruto's hand away as he tried to rip it open. She then carefully unsealed it, reached in, and took out a sizable gold coin slightly smaller than her palm. Engraved on it was a portrait of Center Spring. As Sakura examined the coin, Gunma walked over. Mind if I borrow this for a minute? Sakura handed over the coin. Gunma held it up between his fingers. These gold coins are worth 10 points. There are only 5 in this exam, and each is held by the top 5 teams from the last round. The gazes of hundreds focused in on the genin up front. Now, there will be no fighting until the battleground starts. We'll call out your team names, and you will follow the proctors to the designated starting spots for your team. Once the alarm sounds, the test will begin. The top 5 teams were escorted to their designated starting points first. The proctor who escorted them led them a few minutes away and stopped near a post. The other teams should be in their starting positions soon. Until then, don't move from the clearing. Otherwise, you will be disqualified. The alarm should sound soon. Please do try to be safe, the proctor said before they left. Thanks again. Over the course of the next few minutes, Team 7 discussed the strategy for the test. Suddenly, a blaring alarm went off, and they all looked at each other and set off into the forest. Around a half hour into the second stage, Team 7 was gathered by a tree in a group discussion. Suddenly, 3 IWA Shinobi jumped down. Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke stood their ground as they stared down their enemy. Hand over your coins, and we won't have to hurt you, demanded one of the genin. Like hell we will, yelled Naruto. One of the IWA genin nodded to the others, and they began channeling chakra into the earth in sync and performing a combination jutsu. Earth release. Earth turning palm. A massive portion of the ground in front of the genin began to break apart and turn inward on itself, uprooting trees and shifting local geography. As the dust cleared, the IWA genin began to examine the aftermath. In front of them were the battered bodies of Team 7 lying about the rubble of the uprooted earth. The IWA Shinbai then began to celebrate their victory, but it was cut short as the bodies of Team 7 began to fade away. 2 Naruto jumped from the trees above and quickly began wrapping ninja wire around the group of genin. They then both came together and tied it into a kunai and tossed it over to Sasuke, who caught the kunai and used lighting release, depth charge. The lighting was conducted through the ninja wire as Sasuke channeled just enough to disable the genin. Once they were knocked out, Sasuke stopped the jutsu, and Naruto and his clone began to wrap the ninja wire tighter and tie up the group. Sakura emerged from the ground. I didn't sense any teams nearby, so we're good for now. Sasuke nodded and went over to loot the shinobi. He first pocketed the 3 copper coins and nabbed a few shurikens and explosive tags. Good job, you two, Sasuke complimented. Naruto and his clone pouted. Yeah, but this strategy is so boring. We just ran around in circles a bunch. That's the point, Naruto. This strategy is fast and effective and takes little effort to take down teams. We have a target on our backs, and we can't afford to stay in one place for too long, or we'll get swarmed, explained Sakura. I know, but I actually want to fight, pouted Naruto. You'll probably get your chance, but right now, we have to focus on passing this stage. If we want to secure a victory, taking down 4 or 5 teams today would put us in a decent position to pass, said Sasuke. We aren't going to look for the silver thingies? Asked Naruto. Sasuke shook his head. We don't know the area, and will likely encounter multiple teams if we hunt for landmarks. I'm confident we can handle multiple teams simultaneously, but avoiding taking unnecessary risks is better. Fine, but I still don't like it, relented Naruto. Several hours later, Team 7 was held up by a small creek, briefly resting. Sasuke was counting the coins they had gathered. 15 copper coins, including the ones they started with, plus their gold coin, gave them 25 points. Sasuke nodded, pleased. If they were to take down another 3 teams or so, they would certainly secure a spot in the top 7. Interrupting Sasuke's thoughts was a shrill scream coming from the west. It sent shivers down each of their spines. Throughout the last few hours, they had heard fighting and yelling, but this one sounded like it was one of pure terror. Naruto narrowed his eyes and looked over at his teammates. We have to see what that was. Why? We can lay low for the rest of the day unless you want more fights, said Sasuke. Who cares about that, Sasuke? What if someone is hurt? argued Sakura. If someone is killing people, it isn't against the rules, said Sasuke. Another scream came from the same direction. Naruto looked over to Sasuke, more determined. Who cares about the rules? If someone is about to die, then we have to help them. Sakura nodded in agreement, and she and Naruto looked towards Sasuke in anticipation. Sasuke sighed. Fine, but we better hurry, or we'll be too late. Team 7 sped off in the direction of the screams. Kankuro was picking some dirt underneath his nails as the scene unfolded. He had seen Gaara brutalize and kill many times before. It used to make him expel his stomach out of fear and disgust. But he had seen it so many times that he now felt nothing. As if he was watching a brutal scene in a film he had seen dozens of times. He looked at Temari, who was looking away, trying to ignore everything happening. Lost in her own world, trying to pretend her younger brother wasn't a murderous psychopath. Kankuro glanced up to see how far along Gaara had gotten in his deed. In front of them were 2 grass ninjas suspended in the sand above the ground. Encased in Gaara's sand, Gaara was standing around a dozen feet away from the other team member. A red-haired girl with glasses on the ground near a tree, frozen out of fear. Kankuro wished Gaara would hurry things up. He had learned over the years that the only thing that Gaara enjoyed more than killing was the fear of those he was about to kill. Hours earlier, he had encased the legs of a team and slowly raised the sand up their bodies until they were fully engulfed. The process took 15 minutes, and the genin were begging for their lives the entire time. Gaara put his open palm above his head as if the gesture gave him power like a god who could smite anyone with a wave. Please, Karen, do something. One of the grass genin begged before his mouth began to be covered with sand. The sand began fully encasing the 2 grasses, and Gaara began to close his palm. Sand burial. The sand compressed, and the sickening cracking of bone of flesh came from the sand. The sand released the bodies, and Karen saw the unrecognizable bodies of her teammates. She screamed again, her throat feeling like it was about to split open from the action. She tried to pull herself backward, but her back hit the tree, and her palms began to bleed from scraping against the wood. Gaara looked down at Karen indifferently. You 3 disappointed mother. I will probably not remember your deaths past the hour. Gaara pointed his palm toward Karen, and the bloody sand began to make its way toward her. She closed her eyes and put her hand on her head, awaiting her coming fate. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Karen felt a blast of wind in front of her and opened her eyes to see. The sand reaching her was blasted away, and 3 leaf ninjas stood before her. The forest was quiet for several moments. Karen expected an expression of hatred and indifference from Gaara, but an unnerving grin came across his features instead. Gaara looked Naruto straight into Naruto's eyes and began ranting nonsensically. Mother has been restless. So many people here who can prove my existence, but I can only look and not touch, or else father would punish me. And since I entered this forest, it has been nothing but whelps and trash, but to think one of you would come straight to me. Sakura noticed that Gaara was talking directly to Naruto and asked, what is he talking about? Naruto ignored her and stepped forward. Who cares about that? Why are you killing people when they've already given up? Because mother asks me to do so, to prove that I exist. This guy is insane. You can't reason with him, Naruto, said Sasuke as he got lower into his fighting stance, prepared to engage. Naruto brushed off Sasuke's words and continued to talk. What does that even mean? Strange that you don't. You're like me, aren't you? Mother told me. I can also feel it. You're a monster like me. I'm not a monster. Lies, I can smell it on you. And that means that others can too, and that's why they refuse to acknowledge you. That's why you hate like me. That's why you are one of the few who will be able to sate mother and prove that I exist. The sand around Gaara began circling him like a whirlwind, getting more chaotic with his anger. Temari and Kankuro were focused on the conversation. Neither had seen Gaara so riled up in years. Naruto, what's happening? Asked Sakura. Sasuke also gave Naruto a look of confusion. Sorry guys, but I'll explain everything later. Naruto looked Gaara dead in the eye. I don't hate anyone. I used to, but not anymore. Why? Why do you not hate those who refuse to acknowledge your existence? Why do you not hate those who hate you? Gaara asked. Naruto grinned and put his thumb into his chest. Because I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of the Leaf, and damn the people who don't want me. They can step aside because I'm going straight to the top. Karen's eyes widened as she looked at Naruto, shell-shocked at his clan name. Gaara stopped and looked down at the ground. The long seconds of silence felt like eons as everyone stayed tense for a potential fight. The sand around Gaara then slowly began to seep back into the gourd on his back. Gaara then mumbled to himself, "Sorry, mother, but if I kill him now, I won't be satisfied." Gaara then looked up at Naruto. "Do not take this as anything other than a delay of the inevitable. Once my thoughts are clear, I promise you by the time I leave, you will die by my hands." Gaara then turned around and slowly began walking away. "You've given me a lot to think about, Uzumaki." Gaara continued walking as he went past his siblings, who had their eyes wide and were shocked at Gaara's submission. Before they could think any further, they heard their brother's commanding voice from behind them. "Kankuro, Temari, come now, or I will leave you behind." Both of them got out of their trance and began to follow their brother. As the trio went out of sight, all of Team 7 let out the breath they were holding as the tension left their bodies. Naruto took a deep sigh. "Well, at least that went well. What were you two talking about?" asked Sasuke. Naruto's anxiety returned as he realized he would have to reveal his secret to his teammates. "We can talk about all of that later, but for now, we have to find a safe place to talk things through." Sakura squatted down in front of Karen, who was staring straight forward as her mind struggled to process everything that happened. "Are you okay? I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner to save your friends." Sakura apologized. Karen looked up at her. I almost died, and now." Karen's head did a sudden turn toward Naruto as her emotions caught up with her memories. "What did you say your name was?" Karen said as she gestured toward Naruto. "Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage," said Naruto with his usual excitement. Karen gasped as she took a quick intake of air. "Oh my god, this can't be happening," she said in disbelief. "What's wrong?" asked Sakura, concerned. Karen put her hand on her chest. "My name is Karen Uzumaki." Team 10 tree-hopped to their next destination. The first thing they did was find an elevated point and look for potential landmarks in the area. They had procured one silver coin from a large fallen tree. They were hoping to gain another at the next destination Shikamaru decided on. As they traveled, Ino asked a question. "Are you sure this is the best strategy?" Shikamaru nodded. "Finding these silver coins within the first few hours is key unless we want to fight one of the top 5 teams. The second day of the test will be the best time to fight. Most teams will have more than the 3 coins they start with, and teams with a lot of coins will most likely feel some sort of fatigue." Ino narrowed her eyes. "And you didn't think to tell us that before you had us start running around looking for big rocks and trees? You didn't ask," Shikamaru dismissed. Ino turned to Choji. "Can you believe this bum? Why do we even listen to him?" Choji shrugged as he chewed on a field ration. "It's worked out so far." "Wait!" Shikamaru said from in front of them as he stopped on a branch. Ino and Choji caught up, and both their eyes went wide at the sight in front of them. The area of the forest below was covered in blood, and 6 bodies were scattered around. "Oh my god, what happened here? Looks like a stronger team came across 2 weaker teams fighting and finished both of them off," Shikamaru analyzed. Choji shook his head. "But why kill? It's so senseless." Shikamaru then caught a glint out of the corner of his eye, and he began to focus on one of the bodies. He looked over the body's eyes and saw that 2 copper coins had been placed on them in an almost mock burial preparation. Shikamaru's heart dropped in his chest, and he said, "Whoever did this wasn't a part of the exams." Ino happened to turn and saw an object benign hurled toward them. "Guys, move!" The 3 of them jumped out of the tree. As soon as they leaped, a strange-looking scythe attached to a wire split the branches where they were standing. The 3 of them stood back to back on the forest floor, looking for their adversary. "Do you see anything?" "No, nothing." The sound of metal scraping the ground made all of them turn as they spotted a figure coming through the brush, revealing himself. A man who was dragging a scythe behind him, leaving a line in the dirt, appeared in front of them. He pulled up his scythe and put it on his shoulder. Another said, "Huh? Looks like I'm lucky today," Hayden said as he smiled devilishly. Hinata scanned through the woods with her Byakugan, looking for other teams. "You see anything?" Kiba asked as he was tossing up and down the coins they had gotten from other teams. "No, nothing yet. I think we should move to a different area soon. That's probably the best course of action. Staying stagnant can take away potential opportunities," stated Shino. Suddenly, a voice made all 3 of them jump. An Inuzuka, Aburame, and a Higwa. "Huh? That's one hell of a tracking squad. The three of them turned to see a man casually leaning against a tree only a few feet behind them. How the hell did he get so close unnoticed? Asked Kiba. That's a great question, said Shino, his usual calm tone being shaken by the stranger's sudden appearance. And ignored them as he got off of the tree and stretched his arms. I haven't managed to catch shit yet, but you three will be a good start. Team 7 circled back to the small creek they had stopped at earlier. Sakura scanned the area and found no one nearby. Karen was in the creek, wiping away the blood and grime on her. Naruto sat cross-legged. Since Karen's reveal, his mind had been trying to process the concept of him having a family. Not only a family, but a clan. His mind was coming up with thousands of questions for Karen, but he first needed to explain his burden to his team. Sakura was sitting on a stump, while Sasuke leaned against a tree, patiently waiting for Naruto to begin. Karen finished washing up and sat nearby in a position similar to Naruto's. How should I even start telling you guys this? Naruto said. Maybe start by telling us why Gaara said you were the same. Naruto put a hand to his stomach. He's referring to what we both have inside of us. 12 years ago, when the nine-tailed fox attacked the village, everyone thought the fourth killed it. But the fox couldn't be killed and had to be sealed away into something, Naruto explained, his voice betraying the emotional turmoil he was experiencing. Or someone, Sakura said, her eyes wide in recognition. Naruto nodded, lifted his shirt, and channeled chakra to his stomach to reveal his seal. Karen gasped. Sasuke and Sakura just stared at the seal, the emotion on their faces hard to decipher. Well, that's the truth. I'm actually a monster. I understand if you guys look at me differently now, Naruto said, his voice getting heavy. Sasuke snorted. If you think this changes things, you're wrong. You're still an idiot to me, but now you're just an idiot with a chakra demon inside him. Naruto wiped away some tears. Thanks, Sasuke. He then looked at Sakura, who was wiping away some tears of her own. Sorry, it just all makes sense now how you were treated like an outcast in the village. I'm sorry, Naruto, if I knew. Sakura's voice tapered off as she started to shed more tears. It's not your fault. Only the adults know about it. Gramps put a law that made it illegal to talk about it so that our generation wouldn't treat me differently. Did it work? Asked Sasuke. Naruto looked up at the sky. Not really. I was ignored when I was in the orphanage. The attendants kept me away from the other kids. It may be a surprise, but I didn't talk much as a kid. I just wanted someone to play with or talk to. The only one who would was Gramps. Karen whispered over to Sakura and asked, Who's Gramps? It's the Hokage. Karen's mouth widened in shock at her cousin's apparent close relationship with the Hokage. He saw how miserable I was in the orphanage and thought getting me a place by myself was a good idea. How old were you? Asked Sakura. I think I just turned 5. 5, Sakura said in disbelief, trying to imagine her living by herself at that age. Sasuke nodded, his sympathy for Naruto's upbringing increasing as he realized how it felt to be alone at such a young age. Staying in the apartment didn't help. After heading out by myself, everyone would just ignore me and act as if I didn't exist. I ended up sitting in my apartment angry and sad, wondering why people would acknowledge me. Sasuke and Sakura were shocked by the amount of introspection in Naruto's words. Despite being close friends with him for a year, this was the first time either had seen this side of Naruto. What changed? Asked Sakura. Naruto smiled. One day, Gramps came to my apartment and told me about ninjas. I knew what they were, but no one really talked to me about them before. He told me stories, but the one that hooked me the most was about the fourth saving the village from the fox. Naruto felt sad at the memory. Looking back, he realized that he was being lied to even then. After that, I realized that the village's most respected and loved person was the Hokage, whether it was the fourth or Gramps, so I asked him how I could get his hat. And he told me I had to become a ninja and get as strong as him or the fourth. So that's why you became a ninja, stated Sasuke. I wish I knew I wouldn't have given you such a hard time in the academy, said Sakura with remorse. Naruto waved off her comment. Oh, don't worry about that. Sure, your words hurt sometimes, but I was just happy that you talked to me. Sakura smiled lightly. Well, you were annoying. Naruto took a deep breath and let it out. Thanks, guys. Letting all that out felt really good. No problem. Sasuke, satisfied with the answer he received, decided to move on to the next topic. So what's this about Naruto's clan? he asked as he turned toward Karen. Karen adjusted her glasses as she began to recite from memory the stories from her mother. The Uzumaki clan hail from Uzushiogakyure. It was a small island off the coast. We were world-renowned for our skills in sealing jutsu, red hair, long lifespans, and huge chakra reserves. And we were staunch allies of Konoha for years, so much so that apparently, a temple was built for the Uzumaki. The first Hokage even ended up marrying a Uzumaki. The first Hokage married Uzumaki? Questioned Sakura, with both Naruto and Sasuke equally befuddled, trying to grab from their memory banks of Konoha history. Karen gave them a puzzled look. You guys didn't know. Do they not teach history in your village? Sakura, her eyes trying to focus. I remember Amito, but not much outside of that. Do you know anything else? Karen shook her head. No. That's all I know about the Uzumaki's connection with the leaf. Mom had no books about our history, so she told me all from memory. Naruto hadn't said anything, trying to process all the new information. Wait, why do I have blonde hair if I'm an Uzumaki? Karen shrugged. It's a common trait, but Mom mentioned that it wasn't unusual for some Uzumaki to have different hair color, especially if one of their parents wasn't an Uzumaki. Naruto nodded, and then asked a question at the forefront of his mind. So, if our clan is so famous, why are you the only Uzumaki I met? Karen's eyes grew downcast. During the Second War, Kumo, Iwa, and Kiri performed a joint attack on the land of whirlpools. The nation was completely destroyed, many were killed, and those that survived were displaced. My parents were out of the village at the time. Naruto felt a bottomless pit of emptiness in his stomach at finding out about such a loss of something he never had. Why? Why would they do that? Karen shook her head. I don't know. Mom disliked talking about it. Karen's eyes began to water, and she started to sob softly at the memory of her mother. Naruto walked over to Karen, squatted down, and put both his hands on Karen's shoulder. I don't know what happened to your mom, but I'm sorry she's gone. I wish I could say I know how it feels, but I didn't know my parents. We're family, so we must watch each other's back no matter what. Karen wiped away tears from her eyes. Family, huh? After a while, Karen and Naruto began to talk, as if they had known each other's entree, talking to each other about their lives and interests. Sakura observed, to her surprise, that Karen's timid nature was just one aspect of her personality as she became noticeably more animated during her talk with Naruto. The scene warmed Sakura's heart greatly as she watched the kindred souls bond. She then noticed Sasuke was walking away from the camp a little. She walked over to him masked. Where are you going, Sasuke? To scout out the area. Sakura was confused as she surveyed the area, but she picked up the general discomfort in Sasuke's body language. Sakura then realized that conversations about clans and family probably brought up a lot of bad memories for Sasuke. Take as much time as you need. Sasuke nodded and began to go off into the woods. Kiba extended his claws, and Akamaru began growling it in, who was leaning against a tree. Shino, seeing Kiba's aggression, warned him, stay calm. We don't want to do anything rash against an unknown opponent. What do you want from us? Growled Kiba, and scratch his goatee. I'm a merchant by trade, and my stock consists of special brats like you. You'll probably all catch a decent price, especially that Higwa girl. If I sell her to Cloud, I could probably retire. Like hell. I'll let that happen, yelled Kiba. Kiba, wait, said Hinata, trying to calm her friend. Kiba, ignoring her, leaped up into the air with Camargue following. They then began to spin rapidly, creating a whirlwind. Fang over Fang. The spiraling whirlwind of claws and fangs crashed toward In calmly reached into his sleeve and pulled out a hollow red staff with 2 holes on the ends and a hitch in the middle where it could be extended, and held the staff up in front of the attack. Kiba and Akamaru crashed into the weapon, but instead of crushing it, they ended up in a stalemate, grinding against the staff. As they clashed, it slowed the momentum of the whirlwind, and then swung his staff, redirecting Kiba and Akamaru into a tree. Hinata gasped. She knew firsthand just how powerful Fang over Fang was, and for it to be so easily deflected did not bode well for their chances for the fight. Hinata began to panic and breathe heavily. Was this it? After all these years, she would still end up in the cloud, disgracing her family? Her panic thoughts were interrupted by Shino's voice. Hinata, try not to engage directly with him. You're the best asset in disabling him. Shino's calm tone and logical words brought her back to reality. She wasn't going to let her teammates down. They were relying on her. She needed to stay in the moment and not worry about the future. Hinata steadied her breathing and got into her taijutsu stance. Got it. Kiba and Akamaru recovered from their misfire and were back ready to engage, then was waiting patiently, staff in hand. Kiba looked over, and Shino went through some hand signals. Distract, disable, capture. Kiba nodded, knowing what strategy they were using. He turned toward In and gave a fang-filled grin. Get ready, because I'm about to tear you apart. Akamaru growled as he and Kiba set off in opposite directions and began their techniques. Fang over Fang. Kiba and Akamaru began to spin rapidly and head toward in opposite directions. At the same time, Shino began to direct his Kakashi to form a wall and encircle In to restrict his movements. As Kiba and Akamaru reached the wall of bugs, the bugs formed holes in the wall, allowing them to enter from opposite sides. In stuck his staff in the ground and grabbed the top of the staff. With a twist, the staff began to extend up into the air, expanding the length to 15 feet. The sudden extension gave no time for Akamaru and Kiba to react as they both crash into the staff from opposite sides. Shino began to send the wall Kakashi up toward In, who he thought was in a vulnerable position. In casually began to go through one-handed signs and put his hand to his mouth. Fire style. Great flame technique. In spat out a wide spray of flame at Shino's Kakashi. Shino rapidly began to recall his Kakashi, but it was too late, as most of them began to be encased in flames. In twisted the staff slightly again, sending himself back down, allowing him to narrowly dodge Hinata's strike, who had jumped off a nearby tree and was close to hitting him. In then pulled the pole up toward himself and grabbed the bottom half. He aimed it toward Hinata, and with a twist, the pole extended, jamming itself right into her stomach and knocking the air out of her. Kiba managed to brace her fall by awkwardly catching her. Are you okay? Kiba asked. Hinata took deep breaths, trying to get air into her lungs. Yeah, I'm good. Hinata looked over at En, who was back on the ground in the same casual position he was before, with an analyzing look in his eyes behind his glasses. Shino spoke. He's extremely well-versed in combat. He countered all of our attacks and did it with as little movement as possible. We may be outmatched here. Are you saying we run away from this bastard? Said Kiba. Shino shook his head. That most likely won't be an option either. I'm just making an observation. He took out 30% of my hive with that last attack. Not only can he use fire techniques, but he also does them with one hand. As long as he has that capability, my usefulness is little. In pointed at Shino. There goes that Aburame pragmatism that I heard about. I was waiting to decide if all three of you would be worth taking, but after that little combo, I've made up my mind. If I get the three of you, I could call it a day. Kiba stepped forward, fangs bared. If you think I'm going to let you touch my teammates, you got another thing coming. In a flash, and stepped forward and shoved their knee into Kiba's stomach, bringing him to his knees. Calm down. A dog shouldn't disobey their master. He then reached down and grabbed Kiba by the throat. Kiba scratched and clawed, attempting to get out of Ian's hold, but his strength was overwhelming. Now, you two, better do exactly what I say unless you want your friend's neck to be snapped. A whistle in the wind made In drop Kiba and put his arms up to guard. Dynamic entry. In winced as a sandal slammed into his arms, sliding him back a few feet. Her eyes began to twitch, and for the first time, she began to show an emotion other than indifference. Who the hell are you? Rock Lee put his left arm behind his back and his right arm forward in a stance. I'm the Leaf Village's most handsome devil. My name is Rock Lee, and I'm here to defeat you. Shikamaru's mind was going at 1,000,000 miles per minute as he analyzed the situation. Whoever this guy was, he was undoubtedly dangerous. They had no clue of his skill level, but the fact that he killed 2 teams with no visible injuries should put him at least at a Jonin level. Shika, what do we do? Ino asked. Give me a second. Hayden kept walking forward at a snail's pace. Shikamaru continued to evaluate the best course of action. Going back to the starting area wouldn't be an option. In the case that the 3 of them could outpace this guy, they likely wouldn't be able to push full speed without brakes without getting caught eventually. His mind then went to the survey they did at the start of the exam to find landmarks. They had elected to go near the area's edge to avoid conflict. Shikamaru cursed internally. It looked like they would have to take a gamble on running into a stronger team. He hated how reliant on luck the plan was, but it was the best he had. Shikamaru clicked his tongue. Thinking all of that through only took a few seconds, but it was enough for Hayden to close the distance considerably. I have a plan, but we have to find a way to get some distance from this guy first. We should probably play it safe and try to find an opening to dash toward the middle of the forest. Okay, Shika, just tell us what to do, and we'll disable this guy, Ino said, gaining some confidence due to her belief in Shikamaru's decision-making. Okay, we should first spread out. Oh, shut up over there. Hayden yelled over as he interrupted. I swear this happens constantly. They start planning, then it devolves into self-sacrifice. You guys go ahead. I'll keep him busy, Hayden said mockingly. I saw this shit go down like twice today. I'm tired of it. Hayden paused his advance and began picking in his ear. How can I make this more interesting? Hayden then snapped, oh, I know. I'll give you guys a 10-second head start to get as far away as possible, which will at least make it a little fun for me. Team 10 was stunned and terrified at the confidence of their foe. What are you guys doing? I've already started counting. You're at 6 seconds, by the way. Move now, yelled Shikamaru. Team 10 began running, jumped into a tree, and began their race for survival. What are we doing, Shikamaru? We have to delay this guy as much as possible until we find one of the top 5 teams or proctors. It's a gamble, but it's the only thing I can think of. Just follow me the best you can. He's probably faster than us, so we just have to take routes he can't follow easily. Ino turned around, and her eyes grew wide. Move. Choji and Shikamaru followed suit as the three of them spread apart. Scythe launched at them, slicing into a tree. How many smoke bombs do you guys have? 2, 3. If we stay in his sight for too long, he'll clip one of us. When I change directions, throw down a smoke bomb. You throw your fist, Ino, then Choi, and then mine. Stay close and look for my call out. Now, Ino threw down a smoke bomb covering the trees. Hayden took a wide berth, expecting them to continue jumping through the forest, but he saw them transfer to flat ground and begin to take off in another direction. The chase continued through rivers, trees, and hills, with them tactically dropping smoke bombs to confuse their pursuer. After around 20 minutes, they hadn't seen Hayden for at least a few minutes. Do you think we lost him? Asked Choji, hopeful. I hope so, but stay alert. He could be anywhere, said Shikamaru. God, why do we have to be Stu? Ino's words turned into a scream of pain as Hidena's scythe pierced through her right calf. Time slowed, and Shikamaru looked into Ino's eyes, a silent call for help in them. Hayden swung his scythe, sending Ino hurling into a tree. She hit the 3 with a loud crack, leaving an indent in the wood, the force sending the scythe straight through her calf. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji began to follow her descent. Choji used his human expansion technique to grow out his arm and catch her before she hit the forest floor. He reverted to his normal size and held Ino in his arms. Shikamaru examined her state. She was unconscious, and her right arm was heavily bruised and looked to be broken. She had a head wound on the side of her head, but the worst of her injuries was her leg. It was close to being wholly dismembered, as he could see it was only being held on by her fractured leg bones and torn muscles. Shika. Choji held out Ino for Shikamaru to take. Just take her, please. Shikamaru carefully took Ino into his arms. Choji reached into his pocket and pulled out a case of 3 colored pills. Choji, you can't eat those. We have no choice. Hayden landed behind them and gave an impressed whistle. Damn, I really snagged her good. Probably one of my better swings. Choji went to pop one of the pills into his mouth, but a sudden scythe swing made him dodge out of the way. He managed to avoid a direct hit, but one of the scythe's many blades scraped a deep gash across his back. Choji grimaced in pain and went to take the pill from the case, but he realized that it was no longer in his hand. He turned to see he had dropped to the ground a few feet away. Instinctively, he went to dive for it, but he then felt a foot go right into his stomach, sending him back first into a tree. As Choji groaned to get up, he felt Hayden launch another kick into his stomach. I think the last thing you should be worried about right now is eating Tubby, Hayden said, as Hayden continued to launch kick after kick right into Choji's stomach. Unable to stand by, Shikamaru did his best to lay Ino as gently as possible on the ground and then put his hand into the rat seal. Shadow possession technique. Shikamaru's shadow sped toward Hayden in an attempt to stop his brutal onslaught against Choji. Hayden then put his scythe up against Choji's neck and turned toward Shikamaru. Go ahead and stop whatever you're doing, unless you want your little, or should I say big friend here, to kick the bucket. Shikamaru clicked his tongue. He had begun to sweat profusely, his mind going into overdrive, trying to find a way out of this situation. He let go of his technique. Haydn then swung his scythe and extended it toward Shikamaru. As it came toward him, he went to dodge the blade, but he felt the torque of wire as he felt himself being pulled backward. He gave a painful gasp as his back hit a tree and found himself wrapped up in Haydn's weapon. Shikamaru struggled against the wire. Haydn began whistling. He reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 pristine white cloths, then began to walk over to Shikamaru. He took each fabric and began to wipe the blood from the scythe, each cloth on the blades where Ino and Choji were sliced. Shikamaru's mind made the observation that it seemed that Haydn purposely struck Choji with the side that didn't have Ino's blood. He then stopped a few feet in front of Shikamaru. Shikamaru noticed that he could see both Ino and Choji on the ground from his position. Haydn then began to draw an insignia on the ground with his feet. It was a triangle in a circle. Haydn then stood in the middle and put one of the cloth to his mouth and licked the blood off of it. His body began to change as his skin turned black and bone-like markings appeared on his skin. Haydn looked into the eye, his arms spread wide. May Lord Jashin bless this ritual. Haydn looked Shikamaru directly in the eyes. And may you bear witness to their pain. Haydn pulled out a cylinder object hidna, then pushed a button, and it became a spear. Now let's see which one's first. Haydn scratched his cheek with the spear, making it bleed. Haydn then turned to Ino and smiled. Shikamaru's eyes followed what Haydn was looking for, and to his horror, the same cut was on Ino's cheek. What are you? I'm a prophet of my wonderful Lord Jashin, and as his loyal servant, he has blessed me with immortality so that I may be able to share the pain with others. Shikamaru's mind stopped. This was the worst possible scenario. This guy was insane, a zealot. There was no reasoning with him. No way to precinct his next actions. I messed her leg up pretty well. Let's ensure the other matches. Haydn jammed the spear into his left leg above the knee and paced out the other side. This woke Ino up, and she began to scream in pain. Stop! Shikamaru yelled as he furiously began to struggle against his restraints. Haydn laughed in ecstasy as he began to rotate the pole in his wound, slowly widening it. Ino's screams began with sharp gasps as blood began to pool from underneath the bandages on her leg. Stop it right now, you fucker! Shikamaru screamed, tears filling his eyes in hopelessness and rage. You know what? You're right. Haydn pulled out the pole from his leg and reverted to his original form. Suffering and pain should be evenly distributed and enjoyed. Your friend over there has endured a lot. In my experience, too much pain can overshadow the pain already inflicted. We should let her sit and bask in it before her death. He then reached into his other pocket for the other cloth of blood and licked the blood off of it before returning to his Reaper form. He then began to slowly stab the spear into his stomach. Choji screamed in pain as a wound appeared in his already bloody and bruised stomach. Stop it. Stop right now, please. Haydn ignored Shikamaru's pleas and continued to slowly push the spear deeper and deeper into his stomach. Choji's yells turned to cough as he began to hack up blood. Stop! Shikamaru's voice echoed through the forest. Haydn smiled. If you say so. He yanked out the pole and held it up to his chest, aimed at his heart. Now scream in agony, scream in loss. Haydn laughed as he watched the agony on Shikamaru's face. Ino, stop, stop it, stop it. Shikamaru kept repeating the phrase, tears filling his eyes as he looked down in shame to avoid looking at the death of his friend. Suddenly an elbow sent Haydn sprawling outside of his ritual circle, making him fall back onto his ass. He was caught off guard as he was so focused on the ritual. Shikamaru looked up to see a girl with a bob of blonde hair and a tanto on her back standing in the circle. Samui looked down at Haydn. So it looks like you need this circle to use your freaky little ability. How lame.